everyone, hey and welcome back to yet another episode of Battle Rap Resume. Thank you so much for joining me. This is your host, Tom Quee. We are here, with a guest that I'm so excited to get into, a true honor for the show. Just before we do that, please follow the show on Twitter at Battle Rap Resume. If you want to know about upcoming episodes, please email us, battlerapresume@gmail.com. Go on to the Patreon as well, patreon.com/BattleResume. If you want to get episodes like this, kind of the top tier guests that we seem to get on the show sometimes, you want to listen to them before anyone else, you want to support the show, go on to Patreon, leave us a review on iTunes, redbubble.com. But, I mean, we could go through this. There's so many superlatives to describe the man, obviously a living legend to anyone's testament here. SAURUS, how's it going, man?
Good. How you doing? Thank you for the kind words. I appreciate it.
It's great, man. And the legacy is so enormous, really. It's kind of crazy. You span such marked decades of styles in battle rap and kind of dominate. We're going to get into the freestyle. We're going to get into the written. We're going to get onto everything beyond. But I thought just as a way of getting into it, we'll just sort of discuss something that's gone down that we're fans of, contemporary. We just had the Don't Flop title match launch. That was being from Shocks versus Soul. You enjoy that one?
Great title match. I said it before the battle took place, like when it got announced, and I think I still feel this way as far as, especially the writing aspect. It's the most well-written 6 rounds in one battle in UK battle history between two opponents in the UK, in my opinion. I think it's the most well-written UK versus UK battle of all time. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
and that's kind of scary because, in my opinion, I think Soul was at maybe an 8. So that's what makes that kind of scary, is that it wasn't even, in my opinion, the apex of Soul's writing. I just thought everything, round for round, both of them were so thorough. I don't know. I can't think of another UK battle that I reacted to the same way. And I watched it on the pay-per-view when it dropped, and then since it's released, I've watched it back twice now. I can't remember doing that with any other title match to begin with, other than just rewatching Soul's rounds when they drop on YouTube and shit. But this actually kept me, Shocks kept me engaged for 3 rounds. I feel that the right decision was made. Also, I don't feel. I know a lot of people think that whatever, it was debatable or so whatever, as battle fans often say in every title match, the champion got jerked type of deal. I disagree. I know Soul disagrees with any notion of him being jerked. But it really just came down to Shocks. Shocks was punching every single line in the battle, whereas Soul had a lot more build up to payoff lines. And I feel like his payoff, his hardest hitting punchlines, Soul's hardest hitting punchlines probably hit harder than Shocks did, but he also spent a lot of time building to a lot of those points. Whereas with Shocks, it was just jab, uppercut, jab, uppercut, jab, uppercut. And I don't know. I think that's a really effective way to attack someone like Soul, especially since he took a more build up approach this battle than maybe he did in say the C major battle where he kind of made it a point to 1-2 punch his head off. I feel like Soul was a little bit different in this battle as opposed to that.
And you said Soul was an 8 out of 10 for you. Where were those points lost?
I feel okay. The beginning of his second round, while it was funny, I feel like he spent a little bit too long on the topic. And a little bit too long trying to be funny. Eventually he did, of course, get back into just start cooking. But also the third round was definitely a risk. And I don't know if you watched Ruin Your Day, just watched the title match the other day. And Ilmac, Fredo, Chase, J-Pro, and Avo watched it. And I thought, when I saw Soul's third round, I thought the same thing that I guess the majority of those guys did, which was that it was very now stuck in a glitch where sound doesn't exist. Ilmac, Bigg K, third round esque, and I don't know. It seemed it was a risky choice for Soul, and he even admitted afterwards that it was the wrong choice based on what Shocks did to him. Or how Shocks approached the battle, but I feel like it was a little too risky of a choice, and yet it paints an amazing picture
Yeah.
But I feel like he could have closed stronger and more definitively on some like this is why I'm better than you and still the champion thing, as opposed to they don't think guys like you have a chance until they get one. I mean, I like the way that he paints the picture, especially to start the round, like so welcome. When he's talking about him, well, like welcoming him to hell, essentially.
Right.
I don't know. I just feel like he maybe could have closed a little stronger than that. He closed the prior 2 title matches. He closed a lot stronger than that.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, what about yourself versus SAURUS? I mean, surely that's got to go down.
It's been talked about multiple times. It just comes down to timing for both of us. Probably mostly for him because it's such a travel thing. It's something he actually has to like prepare for the travel element of as well as the battle. So it's a little tougher scheduling wise for him. There's been 2 different times where we've tried to make it happen. There was one we tried at the bunker one time, but the timing didn't work. And then I'm pretty sure, I think they asked him if he was available for Blackout with the intention of it happening there, but the title match is so close to Blackout that it didn't happen.
Right. Yeah, I heard he was supposed to battle Jonai as well. Perhaps.
Yeah, there was definitely talk of that too. I know. But I know that I like suggest, like when they hit me up and they were like, "Yo, Blackout, what are you thinking?" I was like, "Well, I mean, Soul."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I really want to see him versus Ill too, though, because I feel like their style of writing complement each other so well, and knowing the mutual level of respect, it's kind of it's a similar thing to what you'd get out of me and Soul for sure, because we definitely have like a serious amount of respect for each other as a writer and a battler, and even outside of that shit, I'm cool with Soul. But I feel like those 2 would push each other to such a level. It would be absolutely insane. That would be like the writer's dream battle, you know?
Yeah, no, definitely. And it's great as a Don't Flop native. So many of our guys go over to King of the Dark and they do okay. It's kind of whatever. Soul's beloved over there. Like Soul's crushing it.
He kills it. And I think Quill is really well liked too. A lot of people love Quill's personality in Canada. They think he's just like such an easy guy to like. He is. Quill is so goddamn easy to like.
And, we're going to sort of get to them more towards the end of the episode. Like I asked on Twitter, Facebook, etc. questions for you. Obviously, it's very special. Great for you to come on in. I want to give people a chance. And Soul himself actually asked a question, which I thought, just answer before we go in. He wants to ask about the importance of strategy in top-tier battles. And does that make it less enjoyable to prepare for?
I mean... I don't feel that whatever tier somebody falls into is what makes them like more or less enjoyable to prepare for.
Sure.
For me, it's going to come down to like how much I like the opponent as a battler, how much I'm going to enjoy watching their battles back in order to prepare, and then also the chore of like overcoming whatever redundancies have been said in prior battles. Really, it never really is about what level they're at. If anything, I feel like I want to make my material better for those upper tier battles. So I guess I can see what he's saying in that aspect, is that it can become more of a chore in the sense that the writer you might think as a battler, you have to perform to X level standard. Otherwise it's a letdown or something like that. But I don't know. I just never have that mindset. It really honestly just comes down to me. Like, I don't know. When I book an opponent, if I'm like really happy to battle against the person, regardless of where they stand on like the ladder of battling, it's really just I don't know. It's how much I fuck with the battler is going to depend on how much of a chore versus how much fun it feels like preparing.
And I mean, to go back then, I mean, let's go sort of, early days, almost pre-battling, when, that kind of time, I guess, before battling, but you're obviously into hip-hop, music and so things. People like Big Pun was an influence?
Oh, yeah, for sure. His flow, his cadence. Pun was patterning things at a level that no one had even it wasn't just like a rare thing at the time. It was nobody had even thought that way. And it seemed like no one else was capable of matching like the patterns and cadences that he was using at the time. It was so ahead of its curve. You had guys that back then that were like on a more technical level still for sure. But I don't know, the way he was doing things was just so seamlessly. It reminded me a lot. The first time I ever heard Crooked Eye, that's kind of what it reminded me of. I was just like I thought to myself the first time I heard Crooked Eye, I was like, wow, this guy like must have had like the same pun influence that I had, or something, or it must have rubbed off on him the same way, or something like that. And that, like, I immediately took to Crooked style as soon as I heard it.
Yeah.
But yeah, pun. I would say pun for sure. Crooked, even though but the stuff that got me, I think, more into maybe patterning things the way I do, or more low key than that. Guys like from the Freestyle Fellowship era, way back, like early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, their stuff was really crazy. And then Gift of Gab from Blackalicious.
Right.
Him in the 90s, he was so, at least to me, in my young like high school mind at the time, my young acid warped high school mind, he was so ahead of the curve of what other people were doing. I don't know, I was like addicted to listening to Gift of Gab, Blackalicious, even like Latiric stuff to a certain extent. And that stuff that like opened the wormhole of me getting into other more, I guess, underground and intricate artists, guys like Tone Deaf, stuff like that. Right. So I don't know. I would say that they probably played the biggest overall influence on me, like starting the way I did.
Yeah, and the branching out, then going from enjoying this sort of music to actually trying a form of freestyle, of battling. When was that bridge made?
Wow, I started freestyling with friends in high school, just on some, like, in our spare time, go home, like, smoke some blunts together, and we were, throw on an instrumental, throw on, like, the Outkast Elevators instrumental, or Exhibit Paparazzi or something like that, and we would just freestyle over it endlessly. There was, in my hometown, when I was in high school, my like final 2 years of high school, things started locally with some friends of mine who were a couple of years older, but like some guys who were actively rapping and freestyling and sort of identified as rappers. And this is in 2000 or whatnot, so it was before I had seen or heard anybody that I knew personally doing this. These guys took it a little more seriously, and they found a spot in town where they created an event called Freestyle Friday, where basically every MC in the Central Coast area would come down on Friday nights. It started like in a public park with beatboxing and freestyling, eventually caught wind, so a local coffee shop was willing to host it for us, and then they threw the idea out of bringing like DJs with turntables to just throw on instrumentals for us the whole time. So then that became like a hometown thing that I would just go watch for a good year and a half while I was still, I guess, basically like a closet rapper. Once I finished high school and was able to, just have all the free time that I wanted on my hands, I decided to take a year off before starting college or anything. So I was super just focusing on ciphering, freestyling, going down to those Freestyle Friday things, and then I basically decided, like, okay, I think it's time for me to maybe come out, so to speak, and freestyle for the big boys, rap with the big boys. And I did, and pretty much like shut it down. Like, got reactions that still to this day I remember being like a driving force in me being like, okay, I want to do this moving forward. And it was also like a realization of, wow, I might have waited a little too long to like start doing this in front of people. Like I was probably ready 6 months before or something like that, but just didn't think I was. But now I had the validation of my friends who I like looked up to heavily at the time. Like they were, they weren't just friends. They were idols in a sense, people that I wanted to reach that level of. So I just kept working basically with the mindset of, I just want to be better than my friends. And then started, entering in local things as they started being offered. It was always small, low-key stuff, a couple $100 for a battle. But then, a year or two after that, 8 Mile happens. And the next thing you know, every city, town, bar, and club that ever had anything to do with hip-hop or had any sort of, like, hip-hop following, they were now throwing events with, like, legitimate cash prize battles. So that opened a door for me to actually take it a little more seriously and actually try to, make, I guess not a living off of it, but, pad the pockets a little bit, get some free vacations in and stuff like that. And put myself, throw myself into the lion's den and see what's good, see if I have what it takes, to hang with the big guys. And then eventually, it was, seeing if the up and comers had what it takes to do the same against me.
And it's kind of a tragedy, really, of this kind of early era. It kind of makes it even more romantic and nostalgic.
It's people ask me too. They're like, "Would you, if that format came back and was at all relevant in battling again, would you be happy or would you partake?" And hell yes. Right. That was my bread and butter. That's where I learned to become who and what I am on stage. And I still feel like in that format, I would go into it with the mindset, whether or not it would even be true at the time, I would go into it with the mindset of I'm the favorite to win this thing. Because that's how I felt at the time going into those. I was just like, okay, nobody's going to see me in this format. This is just, I had it figured out. I mean, it's crazy because it was an era so based on spontaneity, but I kind of I was thinking maybe ahead of the curve at the time. I had it sort of down to a science, and I knew what I had to do, even though it was a spontaneous thing. I didn't always have control over what I was going to say or what I was going to rebuttal and whatnot. It's sort of, you work with what you're given. But I knew okay, a 30-second round, I'm going to basically be able to get 10 bars out. So you want to open punch, build for 4 bars, punch with the middle, and then you want to close on a punch too. And that was really the most important elements. I sort of figured out the science of the spontaneous scene, which is kind of interesting.
And was this around you battled TOPR? Was it around that era?
Actually, wow, that was closer back to right after I had first started doing the Freestyle Friday things actively. Because he was already a notorious Bay Area beast. We probably battled in 2000 or 01, something like that. It was that long ago. And it was just the back of a venue in Santa Cruz, California. After it was, I want to say it was an exhibit, an Alcoholics concert, something like that. Some old school, couple of hip hop acts, really poppin' scene that they had in Santa Cruz back in the day. So we would always go up to the shows there and cypher and smoke blunts in the back and just have sort of a party atmosphere. But the better I got, the more I wanted to feel, I guess, a sense of competition. And I had known even before I started battling or even freestyling actively, I knew who TOPR was. Right. Actually, he was MC Bathrobe at the time, and then he changed to TOPR. He told me too before our battle in San Jose that he had originally intended to show up in the bathrobe because there were so many heads there from Days of Past or whatever the case. There were so many old school heads in the venue that night for that battle. Because I told him before the battle, I was like, "Yo, I was gonna start off by being like, 'What up, bathrobe?'" And he's like, "That's crazy. I was gonna wear the bathrobe." And I'm like, "No, if you did that, you would have won instantly." You're just catering to the nostalgia of every person in the venue. Instantly you win them over,
It's just insane to me that you guys battled 2000, 2001 roughly, then you rematch effectively first time in modern era 2017. And
the level that battle is at 2017, that's the crazy part. How do we both still maintain that drive? It's pretty nuts.
It is insane. I'm sure I'm along with another, lots of other uncultured watchers saw us when I saw TOPR, hadn't really seen him before. I was absolutely blown away.
He's got, I don't know if you've watched any of his other written battles.
Yeah, he's got Isaac Knox and stuff, hasn't he?
Yeah, Isaac Knox. His Richard Cranium battle is fucking crazy. He battled Rugged from Grind Time, Florida. I want to say there was one other one too that he did.
Reverse Live, yeah.
Yeah, he battled Reverse in Cali. That was really dope.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Reverse says he's sicker than Top. He's wrong. His tracks are worse than the King of the Dot theme song.
Oh, shit.
Bro, and that was when they had that, like, brutally bad KOTD theme song intro.
Oh, and how close are we in this sort of timeline to the first thing that actually gets uploaded with your name, Greeko?
I believe that was probably the first battle I was ever filmed doing, no question. My little brother actually filmed that with his, like, VHS camcorder. That's how throwback that was. And that was 2001 because...
Oh, shit, really?
That was at the junior college that I started going to school at. So, yeah, that was 01.
God, Christ, I didn't realize it was that early on. And it's kind of like night vision, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. The camera setting was in night vision.
Yeah, but it's a great document. And another upload around for this time, this is sort of early 2006, a Scribble classic, You versus Justice.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That's one of my favorite battles of all time. That's it's a frustrating. I mean, I can't watch the last round for the life of me because I know that the crowd turns on me and whatnot. Which is super frustrating, but that's how the Scribble crowd was at the time. If you're not bringing excellence, they're going to turn on you.
Yep.
And just looking back, like I had rebuttals in my mind that probably would, like, that I thought of while in the battle that I then, like, blanked on when I started rapping, which was super frustrating. But definitely, like, that was the first Scribble Jam that I attended, and when I got there, I remember it was really weird. It was right after Bo Rat and I had just had, like, the preliminary qualifying battle for both of us to get to Scribble, basically. And that was a couple of months before the actual Scribble Jam event. There was a crazy amount of buzz just behind our prelim battle and on, like, the momentum that I was riding going into Scribble, because I think I had won, like, 7 straight Tourette's events or something, like, leading into it. So when I got there, there was, like, already talk of, like, people coming up to me. Like, this was the first time I had ever met PH. Rest in peace, PH. He comes up to me. He had known everybody who had been there, like, in years before and whatnot. But he comes up to me and, like, puts his arm on my shoulder, and he's just like, yo, man, like, I hear you're going to win this thing this year. Are you ready to go? And I was just like, yo, wait, first of all, like, you're Pumpkinhead. And then second of all, who's saying that? Why are you saying that to me?
Right.
And what, like, where is this all stemming from? Come to find out, it was the year that Ilmac was defending champion. So he was, like, deflecting, like, a lot of people asking him, are you ready to repeat and this and that? He was, like, deflecting that off to me and just being like, nah, like, watch out for this full thesaurus.
Right.
Which is hilarious. But I mean, it made me realize at the time, like, oh wow, I might actually have a chance to win this thing. But I said before, like, any of the actual battling part of the weekend started, I was like, I feel like the expectations are high, maybe higher than I expected. I'm just going to go into this with the mindset of I want to have the best, most memorable battle of the weekend. Other than anything that happens outside of that is just a bonus. If I happen to win it, that's incredible. I'm not going to go into my first one, especially with the playing field being as good as it was in 05. It was scary good, like the amount of talent that was in there. So I was basically just like, as long as I have what is considered the most memorable or best battle of the event, I'll be perfectly happy with, anything that happens. And I definitely feel like mission accomplished. Like, even after they gave the decision to Justice, I was just like, well, I set my goal and I accomplished it, so I can't really be mad. And I know what I have to do next time in order to not be the runner-up, basically. And that sort of, like, sparked the fire of, I think after I got home from Scribble that year, I don't think I'd lost a freestyle battle, like, legitimately from then until, I won the following Scribble. It was probably after the following Scribble that I lost a freestyle battle. Like, once I had sort of just felt the relief of, like, oh, okay, I did it. I accomplished goal number 2. It's out of the way now, type of thing.
And were you aware at that time, like, because it's like kind of this golden era, really, that everyone looks back on fondly? Were you like, oh, this is so awesome, there's so many good people battling?
Yeah, I knew at the time. I felt at the time of Scribble 05, I was like, wow, there feels like there's something special about just the lineup in general. We had Iron Solomon, who had gotten jerked the year before and who was basically peaking sort of like a level that I was, or that I was trying to get at the time in 05. I thought Iron Solomon was, like, invincible at the time, and he pretty much proved he was until he got to Justice. we had heard a little bit about Justice from Awkwards because Awkwards had seen him qualify for Scribble in Australia. So he had put us up onto him and how good he was. And then you had guys like Ilmac, Borat, No-Can, Passwords. I don't think Franco was there in 06. Actually, Franco was there in 06. I think he just lost early. Okay, Franco was there. And this is just the West Coast guys. But, I mean, that is literally like the upper echelon of the freestyle era. And then, of course, you have the other guys from other regions. You have Mad Ills, Parable, Sonny Bam was in it. All of the heavyweights, I feel like, were in the 2005 lineup for sure. There was definitely like a distinct drop-off the following years after that.
And, you know, the next distinct phase, really, in your battling career at this time is, you know, with Immaculate, you guys have an incredible team throughout these tournaments. How did you guys eventually, kind of get together and start to battle together?
It's crazy because, the first team battle we did together was in 2005, actually. It was for an event called Mind Games. It might have been 06. No, it was 05. It was 05 because it was actually the first time I had met Ilmac. So at this point, he was Scribble Jam champion. We were just chopping it up through like rapmusic.com, through the message boards, and then through like AOL Instant Messenger. We would just chop it up all the time. But we had never actually met. There was an event in San Jose, or in the San Jose area in California, called Mind Games in 2005. It was $1,000 1-on-1 regular battle, and then a $2,000 2-on-2 tournament. So Ilmac was intending to come down to just compete in the 1-on-1, and I was going to go up and, of course, battle in the 1-on-1, like no question. I ended up losing in the finals to Franco, actually.
Right.
And Il lost in the Final Four. And then we lost as a team in the finals, or maybe it was the Final Four, to the eventual winners. But neither of us had even intended on teaming up in the 2-on-2, but then through just chopping it up on AIM, I was, the idea just sort of came up of like, should we enter the 2-on-2 and just not tell anybody? And then everybody will just be terrified when they like hear the news type of deal, you know? Yeah. So we agreed to do it. We entered. We told the people throwing the event not to let anybody know that we were entering together, you know? And then Ilmac like flew in the morning of that event. So the first time I met him was day of the event. Right. I picked him up from the airport as he landed, 2 or 3 hours before the event. And we just like went to a park near the venue, and I rolled up a couple of joints, and he was with one of his boys like from Portland. And, I rolled up a couple, and we just started like ciphering back and forth to basically just like feel out each other's styles.
Yeah.
How it was going to work, sort of figured out like what we should do as far as bar trading, and 4 bars just seemed the most natural for us to do, especially seeing how our styles sort of complemented each other already. After that, I think we either got second in that or we lost in the Final Four. So it was one of the two. Mm-hmm. After that, we didn't even really think, like 2-on-2s weren't really a thing. And then we both got invited to Spin the Mic in New York. We went to that, where Harry and Ara presented us with the idea of the 2-on-2 tourney. But from what they had talked about, they were saying they were going to do 2 divisions, like a New York division, a UK division. And then initially, from what we understood, their plan was going to be, okay, you know how the way the WRC was aired on YouTube or on the Jump Off channel, it was like one team dropped a battle per week, basically. It was so it was aired like a season to lead up to the finals. Initially, their intent, I think from what they told us, was not only to present it like that, but to actually just only have each team battle once per week, and then they were going to air the episodes weekly. Elle and I loved the idea of the 2-on-2 tournament thing. But obviously with him being in Portland and me being in Cali, there was no way we were going to be able to go back and forth to New York once a week for one battle at a time. Like it didn't make any sense logistically. So then they hit us back a couple of weeks later, and they were just like, hey, we've like figured out a format for the World Rap Championship 2-on-2s. What do you guys think of this? And, we instantly said yes, of course. And, The crazy thing is, and this was always the funny part to me about our team dynamic. We had such a natural like meshing as a team. And even going into like the written era of 2-on-2s, we always had we were so like naturally meshed.
Yeah.
The interesting part was that we lived in 2 different states. We never prepared together for more than 48 hours before the event when we would meet up.
Right.
And then like we would sort of come up with ideas separately and bounce them off of each other through AIM, but we couldn't just sit and like construct concrete material together until 2 days before whatever the event was. Every other team, of course, had a huge advantage in that regard. But I don't know. There was something about what we did together that just we were using the same mind is basically, that's how I describe like 06 WRC, the first year of WRC. Yeah. It was 2 people sharing a mega brain is what it was.
Yeah. And I mean, as if, the proof's in the pudding, really. This is your first proper major tournament, and you end up winning it against the Brits versus What's His Face and Possessed. What's His Face, was he at Spin the Mic as well, the US one, I believe?
Yeah, he was. Ilmac beat him in the finals.
Yeah, I thought so, yeah. And you guys coming up, this was quite an epic setting, wasn't it, on the rooftop in Vegas?
Yeah, it was on the rooftop of the MGM parking structure, which was really dope. It like overlooks the whole city. I live in Vegas now, so anytime I go back down to that area, or if I'm ever near the MGM especially, it brings me back to like that moment of being up on there. And I mean, we had, run-ins with MGM security while we were up there and whatnot, them trying to tell us that we couldn't film up there and couldn't do anything. And then we basically like talked to the security guy and convinced him. We were just like, look, man, it's just a rap battle. Like first, like Harry, Scars, and Ara were talking to the guy, trying to get him to like let us do the thing, and he was saying no. So then we go over and we're just like, look, man, this is like a US versus UK rap battle thing. Like we're trying to win a championship for the US team here, and we're not going to take any more than 15 minutes up here. We only had a small crowd of, whatever it was, 20 people max, something like that, which is that's how they wanted it anyways, which is good. And the guy, eventually we like talked him into it being okay for the night, which was super cool. Everything about that though, just like brings me back for sure. And that was after winning it. That was even what got me started. Like that's when I stopped working at the card room I was working at the time and started playing full-time poker on my own. Like it, that battle itself, like it did a lot for me for sure. In more than it helped me more than just battle wise, basically.
And this was the WRC's 06, which is crazy that you guys won this. You guys obviously went on to win 07, which we're going to focus on now. And 07, in comparison, is a sprawling beast, isn't it? So many divisions, so many battles.
Oh, God. Not only that, but so many people who now were aware of what it takes to win, how they're going to have to prepare to do that, and the immediate adaptation of a lot of newcomers using the style that they saw as successful at the time.
And I feel there needs to be like a Ken Burns ESPN 30 for 30 sort of documentary of the WRC's 07. Like, I
agree.
It's a great event. I
love that. I would love
you'd be a great talking head on it, I feel.
Oh, for sure. I would love anything. Any 30-30 if I ever get a chance to be a part of any of them. Oh, I mean, that's like my favorite thing on TV.
Yeah, it's something on that sort of wave, that sort of documentarian sort of thing. Because I am fascinated by it. I've had Arkaic on the show in separate times, and we've both gone over their battles, and we'll get into them in a second because the 07 one was so much bigger, as I say, to the specific divisions that were fought for, and then everyone came together. I mean, a very exciting kind of proposition, wasn't it?
It really was. It was the growth from year to year was like 10 times beyond what even people who were involved in 06 didn't expect the expansion to not only reach that level, but for people to be so eager to be a part of it. There was I mean, there was teams that got denied in every city too because they just didn't have room for everyone. They couldn't accommodate everybody. Basically, that's why they had to start by doing tryouts in each city. That's how big it got. That is insane. And the crazy thing about that, this was right when, '06 was pre quote unquote YouTube era,
right? So
they created all of that momentum just via jumpoff.tv. And that is insane for them to not even have been able to use what is now the key and obviously by far the biggest platform. That is really impressive for them to expand, essentially expanding tenfold, without but self-sufficiently. They didn't, there was no outside force that led to that. It was them doing it.
And the bracket that you guys eventually win, Lush is in there.
It's loaded. Dumbfounded and Sapphire.
Franco, no can do.
Franco Element. Yeah, no can. Fuck. It was such a loaded division. Yeah. There and the New York division was pretty loaded too. The UK was pretty well stacked.
Yeah.
Even Australia had basically the two elite far and away. Australia might have had the two of the best overall teams of the whole thing. The rest of their division wasn't the greatest, right. But the top two teams in Australia were scary good.
I was always a big fan of Zealian franchise.
Word. Oh, me too, for sure.
I thought they were good. I mean, it's interesting when you see these play out, these tournaments, and you get certain people when you were given Kid Twist and Porridge for your first battle. Was there relief on your part, or?
Not really, because with guys like that, it's almost we were kind of at those are battles that we feel not necessarily we're at a disadvantage at, but I would say it's more of a level playing field for them. Maybe not. Okay, the competitive level that Il and I bring it at, I don't feel like anybody was ready to match that. But these were the most unknown and to that time, before the finals, the least accessible of any of the other teams, which makes it harder to just come up with general good, solid, original material because you're dealing with people that so little about. Whereas, to the point, even up to 07, Ilmac and I had a good, 2-3 years of documented battle history that they could make fun of and use as angles. Whereas we had to talk about their division, how bad it was, just sort of make fun of their division. And then a lot of generic making fun of Canadian references, of course, which, we had to do. But I wouldn't say we were relieved just because they were probably one of the harder teams to get 3 battles worth of 3 rounds of material for. Because that was the thing about the playoff system. Yeah. It was best of 3. And a lot of other teams going into that didn't realize that. I remember talking to Marvin Quest a week or two before the event, and that format came up. And it was either Quest or Marvin. Whoever I was talking to was like, no, I'm pretty sure it's just a best of 3 scenario. And as soon as they said that, I was thinking, no, I was in the final last year. It definitely wasn't. And then I'm also thinking, well, shit, I'm going to have to battle these guys. Probably, I'm not going to tell them that they need 9 rounds worth of material. I'm going to let them continue to think that they think it's just a best of 3 scenario, which is what I did. I just kept my mouth shut. And then, of course, I hit up Il right after that, and I'm like, yo, these dudes only think that they need 3 rounds. We need to gas on them. The really interesting thing about the 08 or the 07 finals is that, okay, every team that had made the finals, legitimately every team was writing for every other team, preparing for the what-if scenarios, so they would have basically bars ready. We prepared, Il and I, we met up 24 hours before we flew to New York. We prepared our first round. That was it. Just our first round. and then basically figured we'll, take it from there, sort of mold stuff in between rounds. So we prepared a first round for them, and then a first round or a first 2 rounds for Quest and Marv, because based on how the brackets were set up, we thought that it was going to be most likely that we were going to face them in the second round. So the only teams that we actually sat down, wrote, and prepared for were our first round opponent. For one, we wrote, our opening rounds worth of material, and then we wrote for two separate 3-rounders with Quest and Marv. We basically prepared as much as we could for. We didn't have any idea what we were going to do for the finals, who we were going to see in the finals, or anything like that. And looking back, it's like, wow, we probably got pretty fucking lucky that things fell the way they did, because especially after talking to and Arc, like after the event, I mean, they showed us a book of like 9 rounds worth of material that they had for us.
Right.
And they would have been definitively more prepared than we were going into that one. And I mean, whatever, I still like our chances going into any situation, but a situation like that, for that much money on the line, the more prepared team is going to have a better chance of winning it overall. And they would have had a very good chance of beating us that day if things would have gone differently.
It's a crazy gauntlet, isn't it? Because in winning the tournament, you and Ilmac have to do 27 rounds of material.
Yep.
I mean, what sort of time? A day? Is it a day? Is it a half day? Is it a morning till
12
night?
hours, basically.
12
it's
hours,
like, noon to midnight type of deal.
Noon till midnight, yeah. And so, Kid Twist versus Porridge. How many times? What do you get a break between rounds, and then what's the break?
Well, yeah, okay. So it would go first 1 3-round battle would happen, and then the next team would go. So as soon as our battle would finish, we would leave we were probably the only team who didn't stick around and watch other teams' rounds.
Sure.
We finished, we would go outside, start walking around the block, because the second year, 07, it was filmed at like a recording studio in downtown. It's funny, Sheryl Crow was recording a song in the studio next to the one where and like Craig G was hitting on her and shit. It was hilarious.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so like in between every single battle, we would basically leave the room, go pace around the block, bounce ideas off of each other, think of stuff from the prior battle that they said that we could rebuttal in the best way that we can. Sort of just like building blocks with each other. That's what we would do. Everybody else would just stay in the room and sit there and watch everybody else, which I wish I would have done in hindsight for sure. But we were in constant preparation mode, which is, I think, how he and I operate even to this day for any battle that we do. It's just the gears aren't stopping until they basically say, hey, like, go to the ring. It's time for you to battle in 10 minutes.
And it's great when you see these events early on where, there are so many kind of, not even future stars, people who had established themselves. But I'm thinking of you and obviously Ilmac and Quest and Marv and, even Kid Twist and Po Rich, all these people that sort of will feature heavily in the kind of future development of the whole thing. Like, how are you feeling when you won the sort of first match, you're going into the second?
It was a huge relief to win the first, especially because they did really well in the first. We were definitely just like, okay, we got the win. Now, the big relief about winning the first one, especially being like, we were confident going into it, but then once you're up 1-0 in a best of 3 scenario, it's like, okay, can these guys beat us back-to-back battles now? Right. That really puts their back against the wall more than it affects us. Second round, the second battle, they did beat us, which I think we were sort of on autopilot, basically like, I wouldn't say stockpiling, sort of maybe holding on to haymakers just for like the if need be third round scenario were to present itself, which we thought it was going to, because whatever, shout outs to Harry and to Jump Off, but they had a knack for maximizing off of like if there was any room for the slightest debate, they were to get the maximum quantity footage out of it, instead of it being just called in a close battle, it was like, no, we're going to see another one. Yeah, that's how, and it's okay. They did it for content for sure. And, you have to do that. We even felt like they did that in the '06 finals, to be honest. But it's just that we knew that there was a chance that most of the battles were going to go the full 3 battles for the sake of content, to not make it seem so anticlimactic. Just all of the reasons you would expect to go into it in the way that they were airing it, sort of like a TV show or like a season. You want to have like the meaty buildups to like the ultimate prize. You sort of need that to get there. You don't want everybody's path to look easy, especially when you're airing it like a season and fans are following it as such.
It's difficult as well, isn't it? Because you can perform to the greatest of your ability in a 2-on-2, but not that it happens in your case, but it can happen where the partner just isn't as sharp on the day,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That can definitely happen. I mean, it happened that day with a couple of teams for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
It happened Zeely was basically like a no-show. I would say 360 pretty much carried the 60 and Anecdote team. Dote was just so... Anecdote at the time was so... He was so line reliant. Like, it was... Everything that he said, he was relying on the strength of just what was written at face value. Like, whereas a guy like 60 has so much personality, he can make the simplest thing sound amazing. So like Marv too,
Yeah.
It was so I feel like 60 and Franchise are probably like the clearest examples of guys who actually, especially that day in a situation like that, were sort of picking up the slack to carry the team, so to speak.
And
even Matt Ills for Matt Ills and Parable. Parable was a complete no-show in that.
Yeah. And, coming up to Marv then, who was the next person you guys take on there. Like, Marv, especially Quest included, Marv is a legend at this point.
Oh, absolutely. No question.
Yeah. I mean,
even Quest was a super well-known battle. Like, Quest, he had done an MTV show before that. He had won... it was probably like a battle for Midwest supremacy, something like that. He had won like a pretty major Midwest battle event. He got like second in another battle event that was covered by MTV. He did like the MTV Made Coach shit. And then I don't know. I always felt like with the Detroit scene in general, there's a really good sense of unity there. So you always had bigger artists in the Detroit scene sort of trying to put those guys on too, which I knew who they were well before I had ever even thought I was going to battle them.
And beating them must have been a great thing to do.
Oh my God, it was insane. We honestly thought, I mean, even when the brackets were released, fans were kind of frustrated that we weren't bracketed on opposite sides of each other, because a lot of people felt that the path to the finals should have ended with us being there in a perfect world.
Sure.
It still feels to me that like the battles that we had with them feel more like the finals do to me when I watch back the 07 playoffs. No question. Like when we were doing that battle, we knew, especially after we won the first one, we knew it's like, okay, this is essentially for the championship. That's like how we looked at it. And it's not that we were overlooking the New York team or the UK team. It was just we knew that Marv and Quest were who we considered the heavyweights in the room. Like, no question. Because they did everything so well. And they were so unique from every other team in the tournament. Every other team in the tournament, for the most part, was pretty punchline reliant. Those guys could beat you going 3 rounds without even using like an actual technical punchline if they didn't want to. They could just out-personality you, make fun of you, do some simple tandem, I'll beat your ass shit like they did in the prelims. And they had enough personality and presence and just like the seasoned factor. They were seasoned MCs at the time. So there was like a very authentic feel about every bit of their performances because they had been there. Everybody in the room watching them, like during all of their rounds, people were just like, damn, like these dudes have been here before. This is not amateur hour anymore type of shit, you know?
Yeah.
They brought just a different level of performance to the table than any other team in the WRC, in my opinion.
And you beat them, and then you went on to battle Wapps and Juce in the final. What were your thoughts on their battle with and Arkaic? Pretty controversial.
Wow, obviously a lot of controversy took place, no question. We were outside of the room for most of their battles, though.
Yeah.
So we honestly didn't really know. We had left the room expecting the UK team to win. I'm not even going to lie, and it was just from a matter of preparation, overall hunger. Seemed like the hungriest person there throughout the day and throughout the weekend of like the battle shit. He seemed the most determined to win everything when he was there, and that I think carries over to the blow up that he had. He was so passionate and so determined that it carries over to the blow up that he had, no question. And I feel like Ark had the same mindset. He maybe wasn't as outspoken about it as was, at least at the time, but they both probably had the most hungry mindset of it. And once it got to those two teams in the finals, we honestly kind of thought, we're like, oh, okay, so we thought Jump Off wants us to battle the UK team again, and this time we felt like we weren't we wouldn't have necessarily gone into it as heavy a favorite as we might have the year before, just because we were less prepared for Ark and in general. Like, we hadn't spent any time really like thinking of rounds or material for them, and the curve as it evolved from the prior year to 07 meant that everybody since 06 was preparing for us twice as hard as we would ever consider preparing for. Everybody who came to the playoffs that year was performing and preparing with the intent to meet us and beat us in the finals. That's what it was. Every team, I feel like, probably wrote for like the first team they were battling, and then the second thing they did was write 3 rounds for us, and then they started looking at the trajectory of the actual like brackets, But that's how we thought. And every team told us, they're like, "Oh yeah, I had this, this, and this for you. I had this," and it's like, well, yeah, of course you guys did. Like, you knew what it was going to be for sure. We expected it, but that definitely didn't make it any easier. Obviously, it makes it all that much harder because we have to beat people who we know less about, who have been looking forward to and expecting to barrage us for at least the last year.
Well, the first battle that I want to look at properly, I say battle, 3 parts, 3 battles in this bracket here, is the final against you and Wapps and Juce, with Illmac.
Keep your mouth closed. Yo. And I know I got these faggots stressing. Seriously, where'd you find acting lessons on how to do bad impressions of rapping veterans?
I don't know. Maybe you do. But you really need to stop. And goddamn, I think nobody thinks your frees were hot. So I think that you made it clear to the whole audience that you ran out of written material. Damn, it's so obvious.
Great at the start, dating this footage. Marzi shouting out someone's MySpace.
Yo, I haven't watched in so long.
I'm sure.
I need to go back and watch the finals.
I'm sure. Exhausting day. Both of you. Everyone just looks very light on their feet.
Here's the thing that I'm sure it was talked about at the time, but it definitely gets sort of swept under the rug when people go back and talk about it. Right before so the finals have just been announced that it's going to be us against Wapps and Juce. Obviously, the blow up happens. The discrepancy between judges arguing with Harry and Ara about why were they even hired as judges if their decisions are being overran. All of that nonsense is taking place, right? We're outside knowing that Wapps and Juce have just been declared the winner of that round. So we're getting in the mindset of being about to prepare for them. They call us back into the room to get the finals started. We go in, and before we're about to get the finals started, they announce now that the tape from their main camera has been removed from it someone in the room had, and that is what completely sucked the air out of the room, particularly on the battler's end. Every battler, even every battler who had nothing to do with the actual finals, everybody was pissed because people are thinking, yo, this is my footage. This is footage of me that I've worked I worked so hard on this material for these last few months to have this, be put up and this be a timeless piece of footage that I'm a part of. And now you're telling me that either someone in the room stole it or it went missing somehow, or it is being held hostage or whatever the case may be. That was the real deflator before the finals actually started. So that's why, I haven't watched it back in years, literally probably 4 or 5 years since I've watched back the finals. But I remember the last time watching it, just the overall lack of energy. We just seemed kind of lethargic and not, it's not what you would expect energy wise from a battle that was supposed to mean so much.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It gets revealed in the second battle more explicitly about the footage, but you can definitely tell that, and I imagine it would have been very, very frustrating. There is this kind of trashy.
Oh my goodness, we were frustrated mostly. Il and I, we were most frustrated about the Marvin Quest footage being gone because we were like, yo, everybody thought it was going to come down to us and them. Everybody thought they were going to beat us, and we wanted everybody to see these 3 full battles of footage, which, where it didn't happen. And the versions of the footage that came out are obviously pretty meh. It's, you don't get the full 3-round experience from any, which is really unfortunate. Yeah. I can't blame 360 for being frustrated because he had an amazing performance in the first battle. Even Wapps and Juce, though, did really well against them in their first 3 battles. Marvin Quest's first round against Mad Ills and Parable that no one got to saw was unreal. The UK versus Houston shit was not as remotely debatable, or wouldn't have been if everybody would have seen 100% of the footage.
Right. Okay.
Just it played into everybody's mind, and it affected everybody's battles that they did before that. And I think that was the real kick in the nuts. It was just fuck, man, really? We've been here for 12 hours. Everybody's been in this room. How does this just come up missing? And obviously theories have taken place since then. I have no idea to this day what happened. So it's just one of those things that's, oh, well, it's unfortunate, especially the timing of discovering that the tapes went missing is so unfortunate because it deflated what was supposed to be the peak of the event.
Yeah, it definitely is upsetting there, and but nonetheless, you guys take the first battle quite convincingly. I think they feel a bit more winded from it. It's a bit more kind of drawn together on their end. I quite liked in the second acting lessons on bad impressions of rapping veterans.
Oh, word! I remember saying that.
Yeah.
That's something I would say.
Yeah. It was good. It was really good, and you sort of point out how sort of weak they are in comparison. And
did I have the AC Slater flip in that round too? I might have.
Yes, AC Slater. Yeah, because Wapps in the third says your face seems gayer than AC Slater. Yeah. And you can't see my feet because they're both stuck in your asses. It's great in the third as well here. Nose is so big they can smell the judge's decision coming. And there is that sense of inevitability between you guys. And, even in the interview, they big you guys up. They recognise.
Word. Okay. For sure.
It was really good. And as is this kind of jump off thing here, the second battle gets given to them and then you take the third. And it could be argued either way, but
it could have.
Nonetheless, there haven't been many of these kind of ultra important kind of rap championships, but
I agree. 2
of them have been won by the same people. It's mad.
Yeah, it really is.
It's just kind of
it's crazy too. After that, there's those battles and even the 06 battles were syndicated for on-demand television over here in the States. So there's still people to this day will still it publicly come up to me and it's just, hey, did I see you on Comcast cable on demand 6 years ago in a 2-on-2? And I'm just yeah. Yeah, you definitely did.
but I'm like, what is that? Something that just comes on the menu, like when you're on demand, like
when you go on demand. Yeah, exactly. You go on demand, and then it was some specific hip hop channel. It was like H2O hip hop or something like that. You click on H2O hip hop, and then it would be like music videos, interview with so and so, 2-on-2 rap battles, and I was like, wait, like I discovered it without even knowing that it was on there. Like I was just scrolling through my on demand one day and I noticed it on there. So then I hit Harry up and I'm like, yo man, why the fuck didn't you tell us this? Like I would be talking about this and promoting it even more, obviously, you know? Yeah. And he's just like, oh yeah, man, I wasn't sure that went through.
That's crazy. And, you know, we see a lot afterwards of this as well. A lot of Scribble Jam, you seem to love the competition.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, for sure. Mm-hmm. Anything, I mean, there's a different feel to it when you have a competitive field all working towards one and only one tangible prize. Mm-hmm. It changes everything. Like, obviously, nowadays, unless you're battling for the chain or something like that, there are that element doesn't really come into play of, like, battling to destroy someone on the spot in front of all of these people immediately watching. Now it's like, how does my performance play to the camera long term, and how is this going to look on which region that watches this online is this going to play the best to? Like those are thoughts that like come into battlers' mindset nowadays when they're preparing. Whereas back then it was just like, yo, I need to kill this fool, and then I'm going to move on to the next round, and then I'm going to kill that dude. You didn't think about any of the outside like YouTube audience factors or anything like that. It was just, I need to definitively break this person down, make them look like the weaker of the two of us, and then do that the same every step of the tournament. You know, It was never you never thought like in a freestyle battle, like, yeah, but I bet I won that on camera.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it wasn't, that didn't even come into mindset. Sure. Whereas it does nowadays. A lot of battlers are just like, I guarantee you I beat you on camera though. And it's like, well,
yeah. It's a common.
I don't fuck about that. I'm there to beat you for the people that bought a ticket and paid to watch it.
Right. But some of these, you know, at this era, this kind of late 2008, early 2009, these kind of grind time one-offs, which are kind of more on-camera sort of things spouting up. You're in a number of classic ones. Talk to me about you versus Disaster.
Yeah, Diz, that was like the second. Wow, that was only the second written battle that I had ever done.
Shit.
So it was actually very shortly after. It was probably 3 weeks after I had won Scribble 08. So I had just won Scribble for my second time. I hadn't even upon winning Scribble for the second time, hadn't even started to think about like preparing for Disaster or anything like that. And Disaster at that time, to the battle world at least, other than him, I mean, he was in the Jump Off 07s. He sort of made a splash in the like prelim stuff, and then got partnered with Cyanide for like the New York division. So a few people knew about him there, but I think I was probably more familiar with him than just about anyone was in the scene before he battled me. He and I had met in like 2002 at an event and had been cool with each other like ever since then. But when I got offered that battle, I remember a lot of people being like, whoa, this is like a big shot for Disaster. And I remember not like really feeling that way because I guess I had been familiar with him for as long as I had, you know? And at the time, especially, I was never worried about back then, like, what weight my name holds in comparison to the person that I'm battling. That was never something, especially in the beginning of the written era, that never came into play for me. It was just like, oh, this guy's like, I think this guy's good, or this guy thinks that they can beat me. Well, then fuck that. I have too much pride to want to lose. So let's do this. Whereas now, obviously, it's like much more of a chess match, and it's a lot of like leveraging names against each other and things like that. It's, you know, that grind time battle though was before people were even getting like paid for written battles. So, you know, I wouldn't have the mindset that I do now of, you know, the value of my name versus someone else's, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, love this battle, love the look of it. TOPR in the background there. We can see Fredo, Madils, Lush. You know.
So many OGs are there for sure.
It's crazy. Where was it? Is a park?
It was in a park in Oakland. Yeah. Fuck, I wish I could remember. I'm sure I can find the name of the park and send it to you.
Right.
Fuck, I can't remember the name of it right now. Oh, it's MacArthur Park is where
MacArthur
it was.
Park, okay.
Yeah, MacArthur Park in Oakland. That was, it was the second Grind Time West event that they had ever had. The first event was the one where I battled Madness in Sweet's Ballroom. And Sweet's Ballroom is like a historic Oakland venue, but I think after booking the first one, they sort of realized it might not be ideal for the rap battle crowd moving forward, which is understandable, of course. Yeah. For some reason this one was held in the park, and the cool thing was, like, all of the battles from that day are fucking awesome. Like the energy is still so good. You don't even really notice, like, oh wow, this was just like a free event in a park. Like that never really even plays it. Like, yeah, it just looks like, oh damn, they're battling outdoors. It still has like the street sort of feel to it, you know. But man, the fucking energy from that entire day, because that was the same day as Dumbfounded and Tantrum and Wapps and Juce against fucking Dumb and Satire.
Right, shit.
Fuck, there were so many good battles that happened that day. I think, I want to say Pass battled somebody that day too. Fuck, there was that I wish that I don't know. For one, I wish there were still consistently more events in the Bay Area, because I still feel like the energy up there for a battle crowd is just second to none. But I think that was around the time where we started to realize that there could be something special with Grind Time. Like, especially after Dumb and Tantrum happened, it was like everybody was reacting to every line, going nuts. I don't think we realized there was like viral capability of the videos at the time. We didn't realize that, obviously, until that shit got uploaded. But we knew at that time, I think, that like something special was in the making, and it was just a matter of like how to keep it going, how to one up it for the next event. And shit. I mean, it obviously worked.
Yeah. And behind the camera, Avocado, was he there from back in the day?
I believe so. Yeah, I think that Avo was the cameraman. I'm pretty sure.
Crazy.
Because Avo's been down with us since before Grind Time had even started. Because he did the Fresh Coast DVD documentary. Well, okay, that was like right when Grind Time actually started. But Avo, I didn't even know this until like a little while ago, but Avo actually rapped like in like 2000 and in 01, and that's where the name Avocado came from. And eventually he got into the filming aspect of it, but he got into that earlier than a lot of people think. And shout out to Avocado, man. He is, in my opinion, the real MVP of battle rap and where it is today. He is so responsible for how the way things are presented, the visual aesthetic, and just the way it's done now. He is so heavily responsible for that, and God, he puts so much heart into the scene thanklessly. Shout out to Avo, man.
Yeah, no, definitely. I had him on the show recently. It was awesome. Treat to have the guy on. He is
for sure
awesome forefather and current. Just keeps it going. Like, let's talk about you versus Immaculate, which is kind of one of the crowning events of that Grind Time era, right?
It definitely was. That was Battle of the Bay 5, which was fucking, a lot of people say was like maybe the best written event lineup of all time. Right. And I mean, you can make a case for it for sure. The entire fucking lineup was absolutely insane.
Yeah.
He and I's battle, of course, is especially, I mean, if you know the history, you know that it's insane, the layers that go into the battle. It's not a battle that I could like, I can't recommend it to a new fan as like one of the first 5 battles they watch. Right. But after they've watched their first 5 and they go down the wormhole of finding out the backstory and everything that's involved, which is usually what most people do if they get interested in battling, then I recommend that they watch that one for sure. Because obviously there's so many sort of like inside reference. That was one of the first like inside reference frenemy sort of written battles, you know?
And was there this awareness when you were kind of at this moment, you know, battle rap seemed to be getting huge in a certain way, in a kind of new YouTube-y sort of way. Did it feel different?
I would say that was a point that people were starting to take notice of how things were going to look on camera. People were playing more into that. Ill, I think, was one of the first people that was aware of that, of how like the way he presented things for the camera, how much better it was going to look once the footage actually dropped. Basically, he was. He's probably one of like the most self-aware battlers to begin with. But he was. I think he was aware of that before a lot of people were. And this event was, 2 or 3 events after Dumb and Tantrum had happened. So we had seen the viral capability for ourselves because that battle had dropped on YouTube and we saw the numbers that it was at the time, for a rap battle on a channel with a couple thousand subscribers to do like 100K views in whatever it was the first week or something like that, the way it caught on. I mean, those numbers now seem like absolutely nothing. And for a guy like Dumbfounded, they are nothing.
Right.
But back then, in like the big picture of things, that was fucking insane. That was the equivalent of a 1 million view battle, like no question. Hitting 100K was a big deal back then because we didn't have our audience that we do now, you know?
And it's crazy to the extent where the scene was coming into its legs a lot of the time. You know, King of the Dot was coming established, Don't Flop was established, but you were already this kind of guy that they would invite to the league. It would be a massive deal. You know, rightly so.
Sure, I was like a brand of my own.
Yeah.
Was being brought into, and I had always been open with pretty much every league. Like, I don't belong to any one league in particular. Like, for the most part, like. I'm here for the greater good of the scene, and I'm here to put on for every platform because I think there should be, while I know that there are different leagues and divisions and whatnot, there should overall be a unified front of, we're all still sort of working on the same team here, even when each brand is out to better themselves, obviously they should be. It's still, you still want to see your comrades in the same sport do well and succeed. I always have, I've been a big proponent of wanting everybody in this to succeed across the board, not just one particular league or anything like that.
And we're getting now, timeline-wise, into 2010, which was a crazy year for you, really, in terms of expansion. In March, you battled Hollowhan on King of the Dot. Was it a surprise when he sort of, wanted to confer the chain for it?
I was shocked. I couldn't believe. I didn't even know if they were going to allow it to happen.
Yeah.
Organic's face. It's still. You can still see it if you watch the footage. He doesn't look happy about it whatsoever. Right. And all of you can't blame the guy. Like, all of these variables are playing into his mind of like, well, what the fuck is this going to mean? And now what? I have to take care of this dude from California for every one of my events, and this so many different things must have been running through Gannick's head at the time, just business wise. Let alone then you have the crowd who's just like, wait, what?
Yeah,
what is he doing? And me, I'm just like, all right, man, your funeral. Because, I had already, the way I had prepared for the battle, at least to myself, was like, well, shit, if I'm going to Toronto for my first time, and I'm battling their dude, I want to beat the guy. And I also want to, big up the U.S. in the process, throw some needles, some jabs in the process, of course. And I definitely, accomplished my goals in that sense. But for the chain to be a variable in that, too, was insane to me. Not anything I ever expected. I couldn't have expected it.
And a very sort of new concept at the time, wasn't it, as well? So a chain for a league. And
it really was.
And quite innovative just for you as well, not a Canadian home, sort of bred battler or whatever, just kind of thing.
And respect to Hollowhan for putting it up, for being that much of a real competitor. I still, to this day, I have hella respect for that. You would not catch a champion in today's era doing that. No. Anywhere they went, even a KOTD champ in a air quote non-title match, you won't ever see a champ voluntarily put up their title like that ever again. You won't.
That's true.
So respect to Holohan for that shit.
Yeah, huge. Just quickly, what is this battle with yourself and Madness versus 360 and Justice for Got Beef?
Oh yeah, that was shortly after winning the title. Actually, that was for Got Beef Battles, which was Decoy's league in I guess it started in Melbourne then. This was like their first event, like their big kickoff event, and they wanted to find a way to make it massive. It's funny because when Decoy first presented me with the idea, I was like, well, I have a 2-on-2 partner is what I said. And he said, and I mean, he stands by it to this day, Justice said he would only do the battle if it was a 2-on-2 and it was me and Madness. He said he wouldn't do an individual battle against me, wouldn't do an individual battle against Ilmac, and wouldn't do a 2-on-2 against me and Ilmac, which was pretty surprising. I mean, after thinking about it, I was just like, oh, okay, it just means he has like some good like jokes for Madness that he just wants to lay into, and he knows that Ilmac is someone who I guess is probably harder to like out strategize type of deal, you know?
Definitely.
I guess he probably looked at it as less of a risk.
Yeah.
Like at the time, you know, especially coming back. For him to come back was such a big deal in Australia. I mean, period. It was a big deal for the battle world for Justice to make any form of comeback because he didn't battle after winning Scribble 05. He went on to like start it, that like launched what he wanted to be his music career. So for him to come back, it was a big deal. I feel like he wanted it to be as big and important because Madness was definitely still a fucking name at the time.
Yeah.
But I can see why he would say it's less of a risk than battling Ilmac or me and Ilmac because, you know, no team had beaten us to that point to begin with. So that definitely had to have played into his mind. And then he just knows it's less risky to battle someone like Madness. And I'm sure 60 was just ecstatic about it. He's just like, oh shit, I get to make fun of both of these fucking guys. Like, this is going to be too easy for me. 60's the man. But yeah, that was, I won the chain very shortly before that because we were down there doing like radio interviews and whatnot. And I was plugging the fuck out of it. I was like, yo, I'm the king of the dot. Every interview I went, I was letting people know.
Yeah.
Like, because to that point, if people knew battle rap, they knew grind time.
Sure.
That was it. They didn't really know KOTD. So I was doing like my part and doing my best to raise awareness basically and be like, yo, not only is this a brand that I'm like actively fucking with right now, I'm the fucking champion of their league. So that should give you fans who aren't aware a little more comfort in the crossover to see what they're really about, you know? And I mean, it worked out for the best for everybody, for sure.
So, yeah, we Dirtbag Dan now.
Fucker, I got 2 careers more lucrative than the one you have. Today, I'm getting paid just for using you as a punching bag. This faggot thinks that sipping water can make him an income, because there's spare change in every cup he's taking a drink from. No, wait, hold up. Now, real talk, Dan just got engaged, and to propose, he decided to get his lady dinner. Take her out, pay for drinks, get to see their favorite singer. Then while he's playing their song, this dirty motherfucker got down on one knee and gave her finger an engagement ringworm.
Was that your first sort of Canadian soil battle, even if it wasn't King of the Dart, or?
That was supposed to happen at Massacre of the Bay.
Right.
The event where that got shut down eventually. Arsenal and Disaster had first battled, and then the blackout happened. Right. So the event was shut down. Ilmac and Nestle battled in the parking lot. After that event, they battled in like the parking lot of the fucking Oakland Lodge Inn or I don't know, some shady ass Oakland hotel. And they actually asked Dan and I if we wanted to battle there as well. And I think Dan was either on his way back to San Jose or something didn't work to where we weren't going to do it. And the idea had come up of like, well, shit, why don't we toss that on a King of the Dot event, because Gannick and all of the Canadian dudes had been out to the last 2 Bay events, and they had been discussing with us about expanding, like throwing bigger events and whatnot, and trying to build their league, trying to boost their league. So somehow it got brought up, like, well, there's an event in Toronto, like, 3 weeks from now. Why don't we just why don't we just put it on that card, basically? So somehow that happened, and it's still like the only battle that was filmed at a KOTD event that was put up on the Grind Time channel. It's kind of absurd.
Interesting. And following that is quite a sort of controversial clash, you and Arcane.
Word.
You seem like a very honest man. Do you feel you got robbed?
No. Okay. I feel like, looking back, I probably should have postponed that battle. I had lost my dad probably 2 or 3 weeks before that event. So my mind was obviously just nowhere in the realm of preparing for 3-round battle, like international travel, going to an event, anything like that. I should have, and I didn't at the time, because whatever. I pride myself as a competitor. I knew that title match was, it was a main event for a 2-day event, so that made it a pretty integral part of the event. It obviously meant a lot to Arcane, who had just like won a Grand Prix and earned his shot, and I didn't want him to like in any way be slighted out of his opportunity, which he had clearly prepared for. And to that point, I'd never flat out just like canceled like that before, it was such an unfamiliar thing to me. So I decided to just go through with it and tough it out. And I thought maybe at the time that preparing for the battle would sort of take my mind off things and maybe help. Right. And it's not that was just impossible to ask of myself, but it was probably just asking for a little too much. It was just, I probably needed to give myself a good 6 weeks, 2 months off to just relax, grieve, get my head back in order, refocus, and then jump back into like getting myself in battle mindset, especially to defend something tangible like a title, because that's something that you actually have to care about winning or losing. It's not like I know, like, during that time of the written era, we started to see the occasional promo battle, where people just weren't having their battles judged. But this wasn't like that. This wasn't just something that I could sort of walk through. So for those reasons, I don't feel like I got jerked. I feel like I honestly just kind of like slacked and under-prepped, because that's just, what I was dealing with at the time, unfortunately. But I thought, looking back, I don't feel like Arcane's material or anything was like particularly amazing by any means. He didn't say or do anything unheard of against me. Yeah. I think that my first round is the best round of that battle, like, no question. And even I remember even going towards the third, I remember like forgetting. It was the first time in a written battle that I had ever forgotten a chunk of my material. And that's when I realized, I was like, oh yeah, this is just, I'm not prepared the way that I should be.
Yeah.
So for that reason, I don't feel like, especially in a title match, I'm very okay with it, like, transferring the way that it did, because for a title match, you got to do more to win, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. I always say that, especially for don't flop title matches as well. You've got to sort of raise your game. That's the whole name of what it's about, really. You've got to sort of go to a different level. But this title match against Arcane is uploaded August 2010. By this time, in verse tracker terms, you've had more than 40 uploads. How, SAURUS, do you keep going? Like, I appreciate some of those are freestyle, some of those are written, whatever, but to have such an imagination for bars, to write so much, like, where does it come from?
I'm always, like, first and foremost a fan of the sport, and it's something that I just enjoy doing. It's a lot of it is, it's how my mind works. It's almost an automatic thing at this point. Like, I can sit, I can prep, and constantly sort of absorb from or look for like new places to find either sources of information or inspiration or material in general. It's I don't know. The human mind is a powerful thing, and I'm just trying to keep mine as sharp as I can, and somehow, 100+ battles on top of where you are at that point, it's still going, which is insane to me too.
Yeah, no, it is admirable. And you went up against, you talk about keeping your sword sharp. One of the, such an established guy, even at the time, when against Real Deal, Grizzlemania 2, classic event, classic battle.
Oh, definitely that event, especially day 2 of Grizzle 2. Yeah. I don't feel like what's the worst battle of that? Like maybe they're all good. So every battle on day 2 of that card is good. Like you got Swain and Pass, which is probably the most one-sided out of everything.
PH and is that right?
Yeah. Oh my God, one of my favorite performances of all time. Urgh's performance against PH was incredible. You had Diz No Can, Iron Enes, Mac Lethal's return to battling against Dirtbag Dan. And maybe the best battle of the event, if not me and Real Deal, maybe Sid Vicious versus Swave.
Right.
That shit was crazy. It's just one after another, and I feel like that was the peak of the Florida scene as well, as far as like the level of hunger, the appreciation, the fans, like the level of thinking fans that came out to really hear the material. It's not like a lot of regions that you go to now where it's just a social gathering of people talking over everybody's rounds. This was people who were there to listen and react. It reminded me, it was the closest thing to like a Battle of the Bay crowd that was outside of California that I can think of. It was fucking amazing. That might be like my favorite day of battle, like individual day of battles of any event that I've been to. Just the overall, the energy, the atmosphere. You have the Damn guy too.
Yeah.
Damn. Oh, he's so great. Yeah,
he is there. And it's crazy, really, because Grizzlemania 2 shows like the scene was making huge steps. These are getting bigger events, better visual quality, better battlers, etc. Were you aware of an international scene developing, specifically Don't Flop? I mean, Urgh's battling at this Grizzle.
Well, yeah, definitely, because I want to say this even crossed my mind when I was talking about the Arcane battle and not canceling battles. I actually was incorrect about that. The first time I ever canceled for a battle was, it must have been 4 or 5 months, maybe 6 months before I was supposed to battle Arcane. It was when I was supposed to go to the UK for the first time to battle for Flop. I was supposed to do 3 battles in a day. I was going to come with Madness and Dirtbag Dan, and that was the first time that my dad had gotten sick. And I decided I couldn't make the trip. It was just something that I couldn't do. And Eurgh was cool about it. He understood. And, shout outs to Don't Flop for everything that we've been able to make happen since then. But that was, so I was definitely at that time, I was aware of the Don't Flop scene for sure, because it was definitely still a fresh and new thing. But Eurgh had, other than even that time booking me, he had reached out to try to make something happen for a while. It really just came down to timing for everybody. And I was watching everything that was going on over there, no question. I remember when Dan and when Tony's battles dropped from over there. I'm trying to think. Did Tony battled Kulez? Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did,
oh man, that was amazing.
There was some really good stuff over there. Yeah, there was early when Solcon came over, when Diz came over, there was some good stuff there. Ilmac came over, Battle Respect PA.
For sure. Ilmac and Eurgh.
And Eurgh as well, yeah, definitely. Some crazy stuff there. Interesting as well, at this time, Grind Time now is expanding, in the bottom right-hand corner, that very cute little slider thing, which would tell you what region of the US you're in. And you battle Cortez. It's in New York. Am I right in thinking last time you were here was WRCs? Yeah,
that's definitely right.
So Cortez, that's a cool battle that it got a lot of views, but some people might not be aware of it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those sort of overlooked. It's a very overlooked battle. To me, I don't really like the battle personally. I just feel like it's one of my weaker 3-round performances, and it's the first battle that I remember consciously. A week before it being like, oh shit, I need to write these rounds this week and get this done. It was the first time, and it wasn't even I knowingly rushed, or maybe it was I knowingly sort of rushed my preparation for it, where I just kind of put it off for too long, thinking about the battle. And it was the first time I remember thinking that, and then it being reflective in the final product, to me at least. Like, I remember not being too happy about it. But there was a lot of variables that play into that battle that were working against me as well, because not only is it in NY, and whatever, I'm cool with everybody that I was over there and that attended the event from New York and whatnot. I don't have any sort of nationwide beefs with anybody or any regions or anything like that. But there is definitely a feel over there of like them sort of feeling like they have to prove that they're better than the West Coast dudes, for sure. And then on top of that, you have to factor in that I was battling Cortez in his backyard immediately following what Disaster had just done to Swave Seva.
Right.
And when you take in the we're not going to let the Cali dudes beat our guys in our own backyard, when you take that factor into it, then you see what Diz still did to Swave, because he bodied him. It's like one of the best Diz performances ever. Swave was good in that battle. It's just not the fucking same, though. But after that, I had to follow that. So it's just how are they going to let me win knowing that they saw what they just saw, basically, you know? And there was just no way I was going to win it.
You battled Mac Lethal.
Yeah.
Also Grind Time Now. Were the flips?
Wow, what a controversial battle that was. I still to this day hear about how he and I wrote that together, which is so flattering. If people knew the full story and what makes it flattering to me, we can obviously, this is the perfect place to tell it. But I mean, basically, they were trying to make a Battle of LA event happen. A couple of battles had fallen through. DNA wasn't showing up to battle Disaster for whatever the case may be, the first time. They were looking for like a last-minute replacement battle. They asked, Matt Ills hits me up and he's like, yo, is there any way you can do like a battle on one day's prep? And I'm like, yeah, but it's probably, I mean, I can't do it for free. Like, if you're going to ask me to lock myself in a room for 24 hours or something, I'm going to have to at least be compensated in some way, shape, or form. He ends up telling me, like, he's not okay with – or no, I tell him, I'm like, yo, Mac Lethal is willing to battle me on one day's notice. Each of us I was already in LA, so he didn't even need to take care of travel or anything for me. And all Mac wanted at the time, which was – I mean, if you think about it at the time, it's really like next to nothing. All Mac wanted was his flight, a place to stay for 2 days – and $500. And and then I was like, and all you'd have to do is give me the same 500, and I think that's more than fair. Because at that time, I was getting paid more than that to do grind time battles anyways. Matt Ills says no to this, so the idea is shot down. This is less than 24 hours before the event. But it's like now 11 p.m. or midnight, night before the event. I'm talking to Mac Lethal on some sort of instant messenger, maybe even Facebook chat or something like that. And I'm at a good friend of mine's house who has like helped sponsor a couple of events in the past, low key, and a friend of mine who I had also partnered with in Legendary Clothing Company. So he is basically like, well, yo, I'll pay you guys to do the battle if they'll just like make it a part of the card, and we'll book Mac's flight right now. So it's midnight the day before the event when Mac Lethal and I find out that it's even possible that we're going to battle each other. We then book him a flight. Like, we both agree. We call Lush. We're like, yo, it's cool. Like, we have a sponsor for the battle, so Grind Time doesn't have to come out of budget. We now have like an actual battle to help save the event, and we're going to be there tomorrow night to do it. You just have to let us go last. So, we at least have a little bit of time to think. Last at that, like, for that event meant 5 p.m. So It's midnight the night before when we get the go ahead. We find Mac a flight that leaves Missouri at like 5 a.m. and then because of the time change lands in Cali around maybe 7 a.m. or something along those lines. So we confirm the flight. He basically just stays up to write for me and then hops on his flight, sleeps on his flight, lands. We pick him up at the airport, take him back to the house that I was staying at like maybe 8 a.m., slept until, noon, 1, something like that, and then just drove down to the venue. We both get out of the same car and then walked our separate ways to start like circling the venue thinking of our ideas for the match. There's absolutely no way we could have written 3 rounds together. There's just it was impossible.
Okay. Kruger, eat your heart out. I don't think that he had the sort of the acrobatic pre-planned flip line or something like that.
Me and Kruger is another short notice battle too.
Yeah. Really?
That was a 2-week notice. They were looking for like one last battle to sort of boost the Vendetta card. And Kruger was already making the trip because of DNA. And then Organic suggested it to me first. He's like, I really doubt Kruger would say no to this, but would you be down to battle him on 2 weeks notice? And I'm like, fuck yeah. Cause I fuck with Kruger. I think Kruger's dope. Like not only even as a battler, as a writer, as an artist in general, like, Kruger as a creative mind is one of the most interesting minds in battle rap. And he is such an interesting dude to me. And on top of that, he's fucking cool as fuck. Like he's such a chill, laid back dude. I've never heard him say a bad thing about anybody. He's a rare seed that you find in the scene, And when Ganic told me, I was like, yeah, I can't see Kruger saying no to the battle either, so let's fucking do it. And, of course, Kruger said yes, and we had ourselves quite a little war at Vendetta.
Yeah. I mean, we'll get onto that battle shortly, definitely, sure. But it's been about 2 years on our time frame now. We're sort of early 2011 since you and Ilmac teamed up. You teamed back up for 2 matches pretty much back-to-back versus Manic and Spite and Sketch Menace and Nebula. Is that right?
Yep. That was the KOTD 2-on-2 Grand Prix.
Right.
So we battled first round. We battled Manic and Spite, then Sketch and Nebula, and then Tricky P
and Feel Good,
and then the finals. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you guys were back together just for, again, another tournament, Any rust, or was it quite easy?
No, it wasn't necessarily rust as much as it just was almost the same. I mean, it was a little different era that we were preparing for, so we could now it wasn't frowned upon or taboo or whatever to be openly writing for opponents. And now with us living in 2 different states, being that it was an openly embraced written format, it didn't matter that we don't live in the same state. When it came to at least writing our material, we could separately write blocks of material and then just either exchange it over the phone or via text or whatever whenever we talked. But then we still did have the same distinct disadvantage that no other team had, where the only time we got to work on our material as a team was, the day or 2 before the actual event would take place. And I feel like every other team had much more of an advantage with seeming like they're more in unison, I guess. But that didn't really show because we were just so, like, we worked so easily together that nobody ever took into consideration, like, damn, these guys live in 2 different states. They don't hang out with each other and have time to practice these things together. They just know where the other's going to be, how he's going to say what he's going to say, and what note to come in on. Like, we knew how the other one operated. So I didn't really see any rust as much as I saw us, I guess, trying to figure out what to sort of adjust and do differently, seeing how it was a new format for us to be doing a 2-on-2 in, Because you had people at the time, it wasn't your same old 4-bar trade-off 2-on-2 shit anymore. You had people that we were seeing in the prelims and whatnot, like alternating every word for certain lines, and some people using like blocks of material to go off on a tangent on their own, because you can use the time limit however you want as the team. Nobody says that you have to do the 4-bar trade-off. We had just always worked that like the most cohesively like that during the freestyle era, But now with the written element, we just really had to figure out what are we going to do differently? How are we going to do it differently? And how do we do it differently while still making it us? You know?
Yeah, the title match final then against Perich and Diaz, a lot of controversy for this.
Oh, one. Big time. That's probably, I mean, in my opinion, still probably like the biggest jerking, I would say.
Yeah. I would probably say this is the biggest, also like most physical King of the Dot battle I think I've seen.
Yeah, it got pretty heated, and there was just there was a few things that played into that. There was a little bit of tension going in to begin with. I was always cool with Rich, but for some reason there was like a weird tension with Diaz.
Yeah.
I had always been cool with Rich, and when Rich brought up my dad, I took exception to that.
Sure.
Just because I'm like, yo, really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
That's
really?
how you're gonna...
Yeah.
And a lot of people talk about well, when Pat Stay did it, this and that, because I battled Pat before that,
right.
And obviously I reacted differently. The huge difference in that is Pat hit me up weeks before our battle to talk to me about it, and he's like, I know that you were pretty adamant about like you don't want me to disrespect your father's death and whatnot, and he's like, I totally feel you. He's like, we've always been cool. I respect you. I just want you to know, like, actually, it might have been a week or two before the battle. He's like, I got a little lazy, like, with like finishing my writing, and he's like, I definitely mention him. I'm just giving you the heads up on that so that you're not like hit with this fucking onslaught / surprise while you're in the ring, and it makes you react a certain way, you know? And I even I was like, word, well, like, one, I appreciate you hitting me up to tell me that. And then two, now that I know it's coming, I can just tune it out, and it doesn't even exist to me. Like, his rounds when I battled Pat, they didn't exist to me in that time because it was just, I had him muted out. I was just like not paying attention to anything that he was really saying, or trying my hardest not to, you know what I'm saying? With Rich, it was a little bit different. It was just him bringing it up specifically to get the reaction he got. So mission accomplished there. But there were ways he could have gone about it that would have been different, better, maybe more tasteful.
Yeah, and one of the things that I love, one of the hallmarks of this era of King of the Dot is the pre and post interviews. In the pre-interview, you say, quote, both of you guys, this is the Perich and Diaz, both of you guys have the biggest undeserved sense of entitlement that I have ever seen out of two individuals who sit in front of a camera and talk about their battling. That shit annoys the fuck out of me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, fighting words.
Yeah, I mean, I had to let it be clear. It was to be honest, the way they acted the entire tournament was the way that you would expect a team like me and Ill to have acted the entire way. If you didn't know us, but you knew what we had gotten done before that, you know?
Yeah.
Like, if you had just known, oh, these are like 2-time defending world champions, I don't know anything about them going into this, you would probably expect us to have like that ego and that edge that those two seemed to carry for some reason that I still don't understand.
No, and there's a lot of sort of aggression in your first,
there was a weird tension there, and then also Ilmac had been drinking a bit too, so there's like an interesting. He has like an aggressive type of energy too, that I feel because of the drinking also, it maybe gets a little bit of the best of him. He stumbles in a couple of spots there where he wasn't Mr. Automatic Ilmac that we're expecting, you know?
Yeah, there's some good sequences. The keep away of a fifth of E&J is quite nice.
Oh, yeah, for sure. You should be afraid.
Yeah.
The shit fucking... watch him get clocked because it's been a minute since he spit something that wasn't secondhand. What? They didn't have anything that was on that level. Oh, also, when we did the Spanish bit, when we trolled the crowd about Diaz speaking Spanish and how, like, if you're in the crowd and you cheer for it, then you're basically, like, worse than they are for doing it. That worked against us, but in the best possible way, because like when I watch it back now, you hear the tone of the crowd realizing that they just got like high level trolled by us when Ilmac does the like no me gusta baloncesto fucking or no me gusta monopatina and no me gusta baloncesto, and the whole crowd like reacts to it like he says some hard line, and then I'm like, translation, I don't want to ride a bike. I don't like riding bikes. Do you guys want to play basketball? And the whole crowd just, you could feel how stupid they felt for reacting at the time. Yeah. So while that line, like in the moment, might have worked against us energy wise, it's so worth the long-term payoff.
Yeah. I found them quite bland in their rounds, really. You know, they didn't have the wit and warmth. I think Porridge needs a subversion of Kid Twist beside him, and with Diaz, it's kind of...
Agreed.
You know, it's not as kind of enjoyable. I mean, talk to me about the altercation. You pushed Diaz, right?
Yeah, that was... he was talking from the start of that round. He was talking and would not shut up. Ilmac told him to shut up a good 3 or 4 times. He didn't. So eventually I had just had enough of it, and I just threw a little like left-handed Hadouken. It's like, yo, you need to shut the fuck up. Then obviously I like snapped. And part of that though, I mean, you can when Rich brings up my dad and my daughter, you see an instant demeanor change in me. And that definitely carried over to the start of our first round where Diaz is talking. So Diaz basically, like the Hadouken that I threw on him was like a transference of energy from what Rich had said the round before. Okay. And then me basically just like expelling it from my system and tossing Diaz. That's what it was.
That makes sense. I mean, he has to flip it, obviously, doesn't he? And he does.
Yeah. It's just a battle, Pete.
It's just a battle.
That was like their best moment of the battle, I thought.
Yeah, I agree.
And to me, that's nowhere near enough to win that thing, especially a title match. The real frustrating thing is no judge's decision on camera explaining why the decision is what it is. Because every judged King of the Dot battle that has ever happened, the judges explain their decisions on camera afterwards and let you know why they went the way they did. And all I said was, after Organic even announced the decision, I was just like, okay, well, as long as I can hear why the judges felt that way, like, I won't have a problem with it. And then the video drops, and I was like, okay, I have a problem with this. Like, I want to know why. I hit up Nameless. I'm like, yo, you were one of the 5 judges, so what happened? And he's like, well, I voted for you guys. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, well then who were the other judges? I hit all 4 of the other judges up on Twitter. 3 of them replied to me. Only one of them says that he admitted to voting for them and told me why. And I was just like, okay, well, you know, people are allowed to be wrong in the moment. I'm sure you've watched the footage back. And he apologized. He basically reneged his vote. He's like, yeah, man, my bad. The same thing happened when I battled Disaster in the park that day. Right. 3 of the judges since then have apologized to me and been like, my bad, man. It was just the rapid fire shit. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, well, no one had seen it before.
And even in Victory, I don't know if you remember the post-interview, Porridge can't help but take shots. He shouts at Drake for leaving that once they start performing. Yeah.
That was hilarious.
Yeah. And he's like, never supporting you again, stay in a wheelchair. It's like, yikes.
What a clown. And that's who they want affiliated. It's, yeah. Oh, my God. Yo, we actually met Drake. Il and I both met Drake, right before that. We were upstairs at Club XS, in the VIP room, preparing, just going over our shit. We're just in a little corner by ourselves in the VIP. Drake comes up with his entourage through the back VIP entrance because obviously they don't want to bring him in through the main entrance because people will lose their mind. Yeah. He comes up, we see him come in, and we're like, oh shit, this is tight. And then he straight beelines over to the corner that we're chilling in. He's like, yo, man, I'm sorry for interrupting you guys. And we're like, okay, first of all, you don't need to apologize to us for anything. You know what I'm saying? And then he's just like, yo, I just want to let y'all know, it's an honor to meet you guys. You're absolute legends to me. I've been watching since the very beginning. And we're just both, standing there, speechless, just thanks. You know what I'm saying? It was insane. But the funny part is he like puts out his hand. He's like to Ilmac, he's like, "What's good, man? I'm Drake." Like it's not, and Ilmac's like, "Nah, we know, man. Like you're doing your thing. We know exactly who you are." And that was the same event. That was where he was in the ring for Disaster DNA, and then ended up like just giving them a couple stacks out of pocket just for being a fucking G like he is. Shout out to Drake, like to just eliminate and cancel out anything Poor Rich ever said in that interview, man. Shout out to Drake. Yeah. Thank you for the support and love you've shown to our scene through like the entirety of it. You have impacted it more than anybody will know, especially the people who hate.
Yeah, completely. Was it Blackout 5 that he was like one of the...
Yeah, he like sponsored the event.
Yeah, crazy.
That's the one where he skipped the Grammys and he was there from before the battle started until the end of the event, both days.
Jesus Christ,
that's a dedicated battle fan. Right
yeah. I believe I had Shuffle on the show, and Shuffle was saying how Drake went up to him, and just said how much of a fan he was. Like, so it's just
crazy,
insane. Crazy. Yeah. Like, I've often thought, like, what if Drake just dropped like some low key Don't Flop bar in a song, or King of the Dot bar? It wouldn't be.
Fans would go nuts.
Yeah, it wouldn't be outlandish. Like,
no, it wouldn't at all.
You know. The references. I'm not desperate.
I feel like he has shouted out KOTD in a song before. I could be wrong.
Okay.
I feel like he might have though. I feel like he might have shouted out King of the Dot before.
I mean, can you clear up the?
And I know he's shouted out on Twitter. I know he's shouted out Don't Flop and on Twitter.
That's true. Can you clear up the story of Bishop, like some watch incident?
Oh, that was like a gambling thing where so they were playing dice. Because Bishop is the gambling man. And Bishop and Drake go way, way back. Right. There's a video of it on YouTube, though. They're playing dice. Oh, I want to say it's like, wow, the roll is probably for like $5,000 or $6,000 or something like that. They're just playing craps, just rolling dice. And I'm pretty sure the bet is up to like $5,000 or $6,000 or something along those lines. Bishop wins the roll against Drake. And then Bishop's like, "Oh, all right, you owe me 6 G's," or it's something like that. And then Drake's like, "Fuck!" Like he's like, "Damn!" Like I don't have a lot of cash on me. Like, yo, how about like I'll give you my watch? And Bishop's like, "Wait, what?" it's like a $20,000 watch or some bullshit. I remember they're talking about it on the camera. There's definitely a YouTube video of this exact story though, of like the dice rolling taking place. Bishop winning the roll and Drake essentially giving him the watch as the payment for what the roll was.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, Bishop Brigante versus Drake, the watch is what it's called. It's just a shade under 100K, so definitely I'm going to watch that afterwards.
Oh, for sure, you should.
That's crazy. I didn't realize the video.
That's young ass Bishop and Drake.
Yeah, too. Yeah. 07.
That was before Drake was like real young money shit. Like, yo, they both look super young in it. It's tight.
Yeah, it's crazy. And you versus who's looking super young in this battle. How did this come about? Like, even at the time, I bet everyone was like, "This is an inspired matchup."
I actually declined it for hella long. I wanted a different battle for World Dom that year. And but then once I knew that I wasn't going to get like the battle that I wanted, particularly King of the Dot was basically, they were like, yo, like we really want you and to happen. Obviously the history is there. We think that it would it would make sense. And obviously wanted the battle to happen, no question. So like before going into the battle, I trolled so hard. And I was like, yo, like I made a blog while I was in Europe for the summer. I was just like, I'm in Greece all summer. I was like, I get home 3 days before the event and then I'm going to start writing for you, like, like just mega asshole troll mode. It was hella funny. And that sort of carried over to the line I said, this is just another Saturday in August. Like that's basically like, the pre-battle troll strategy that I had too. Like this battle means so much to you, and for me this is just Saturday. Right. Like that was basically like the approach that I took to it. But I took it obviously more seriously than I wanted to. Then I like tried to allow to believe. Obviously, I wanted him to think that he was just going to come over and get like a totally unprepared me who he could body or something like that.
Thinking he could match my likeness no matter how big my appetite is. You're absent-minded for acting like it's a Clash of Titans. Maybe after our rap, y'all will actually see how sad his life is. See, since '05, he studied every match that I did, overanalyzed it, pantomimed it in a mirror, practicing his craft in private. Heard my style, had to bite it when my peak was at its highest. Basically, the reason battles died is because of faggots like this. But you've been dreaming of this, like way before this battle came across us. You were writing before both of us had battled with Ilmac and taken losses. He was writing back when Hollow Hand was standing on the grass with flaming crosses.
And, I mean, how did the battle go for you all in all?
I thought it was okay. We were frustrated, obviously, about the camera incident that took place with, like, the malfunction. That obviously takes away from the replay value a little bit, but it's not a bad thing because then you're really just able to 100% focus on the content because the way they made the footage mostly just like still shots and shit, you really just kind of tune out the still shots that are on the YouTube video and you really get to actually focus on like line for line. Eurgh's third was super strong. Up until that, I thought that I expected more up until his third round, but I thought his third round was obviously really strong.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, going from battle to battle here, just you are established as a legend at your own point, you know, even back then in time, earlier than this. So you're going up against other legends in kind of like defining matches here. Eurgh, Pat Stay, which
for sure.
March 2012. This is a massive battle.
Yep. That was one that was, at the time, it was like, wow, this hasn't happened yet. But of course it's unfortunate that Pat had like the small stumble in it that he did. Otherwise it would have been like a pretty perfect battle. It's still a really fucking good battle. And, I probably was as effective against Pat as anyone has ever been, which I'm like super fucking happy with, no question. I feel like I'm like one of the few people that he wasn't able to just come into and like look super cool against while bullying them. Like it's not very easy to do that against me.
Yeah.
His writing in it was really good too.
Yeah.
Even like the more like vague generic type of stuff, the fucking Arabic terrorists and Eric Harris.
Yeah, Eric Harris.
Shit. Like, that had nothing to do with me, but it's still really dope writing, you know?
Yeah.
Had a lot of moments like that. The slip up, if he wouldn't have fucked it up, I don't think it changes the outcome really, because the line itself wasn't like a knockout haymaker to begin with that he stumbled on, but it just would have overall made the battle like pretty much like a perfect quality battle, you know, from both overall.
I like the explanation of sucker free by yourself in the first.
Word.
He stabbed his best friend in the back tattoo.
Oh yeah, for sure.
The way you deliver the sucker please, you can suck a fat dick. Like you do have such a great delivery, don't you? Quite a lot of venom to it when you want to.
I appreciate that. Yeah. That's one thing that I try to make more like impactful every battle, especially against someone like Pat. Or against a guy like Bigg K or something like that. I feel like it's so important to have your best lines, like for people to feel the oomph of your best lines, you know?
Definitely. And, you know, in your second as well, you sort of catch a case of statutory rape.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. The Sharon incident.
I mean, there's just so we should dig into, isn't it? That whole incident. Like, does that just stem from that photo?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And apparently, after that, though, there was something involving like Sharon being passed out or something, and Pat like sitting on the edge of the bed like a creep or something. I don't know, some shit. There was definitely more to it than just that little photo, though. Like Pat trolls him about it, or used to all the time. Just be like, "You better watch out, Sharon, or I'm just gonna rape you this weekend."
Oh shit.
And when Pat says, like, yeah, he's a big, intimidating dude, so that makes it a little bit funny. Yeah. But it's, I mean, as for a kid like Sharon, I can only imagine him still being a little nervous, you know?
Right, definitely. And, you know, in this third, you have one of many great rebuttals. You know, you continue to do great rebuttals. Like,
oh, yeah, that's probably like one of the standout rebuttals had in the written format, I would say, for sure.
I mean, talk to me about rebuttals, like coming up with them. What is the process when you're listening?
Usually, I mean, I'm trying. It's hard because the best approach is to try and do it against their most like an opponent's most standout lines or something like that. But basically for this, I was rebuttaling the entire theme of his round, where it was pretty much just going at me for being a dad. Yeah. My entire plan, the entire rebuttal just summarized flipping his whole round for the most part. More often than not, though, it's about trying to attack either like their best line or their like most standout line. But the hard part in doing that is that usually their best or standout line creates so much like audience commotion that it's hard to sort of like center in and focus at that exact time about like trying to flip their, like, so there can be so much chaos behind a big line that it can be hard to like sit there and silently think of a way to counter that, you know? So I have to either, it has to usually what it is, it's like something they say will just trigger something in my mind, like in almost like Twitter Pete's mind of like, oh, really? That's how you feel? Well, then this. Like, it's just an automatic thing. And then I'll just go from there and be like, okay, I think I have a line here. What is it? Okay, here's the line. Okay, here's the flip. Here's how I start my set. I always, before I even commit to using a rebuttal, I have to like be certain that I'm going to seamlessly go into the opener for my actual round.
And when you talk about, you talk about fathering the scene in that sort of aspect and stuff like that, but it's not, when you say bars like this, it's one of those things, they always have such an effect because you really have, like, it's kind of, it sounds...
For sure. Yeah. The accuracy of the line, like the line itself holds a lot of weight, even if it's not a rebuttal.
Yeah.
And then the fact that it is kind of makes people like, oh, holy shit. So not only are you saying something that we all know is true, you're doing it spontaneously and in context to your opponent's round. Yeah. Like that's why it got the reaction that it did. Because it's definitely more than just a flip. It's a line that people have been thinking,
Yeah, and battle rap, forever opening new frontiers, and part of your longevity is the fact that you go to these new markets, perform so well. You battled Nestle and iBattle around this
best
time.
Best iBattle in history,
which is an incredible battle. I love iBattle as a league, man. But I remember hearing about this battle as kind of a new battle fan, a bit like, oh, what's this battle? I kind of know for SAURUS, so it kind of had the effect it needed to draw me in. But both of you cook up a storm in this one.
That was one, I feel like that was where I hit like almost a new kind of turning point. I feel like my writing in that one hit a new level in the written format that I hadn't 100% like tapped into for 3 rounds yet. And a lot of that is reflective of how much I respect Ness as a writer in general and as a rapper in general. And just knowing, in order to even make it look like I'm going to beat Ness, I have to perform and execute and word and stitch everything this well just to bring it at the level that I know he's going to. Because, I mean, Ness, aside from being like one of the most underrated battlers of all time, right, he might be the best rapping battler of all time. He can do anything rap-wise when it comes to like his cadences, his flow. Schematically, he can change things up. He can do doubles and triplets, and he can be complex. He can make simple things sound complex. He can tone things down if he wants to. He can write any way that you want him to. So even just confirming that battle got me so hyped up because I feel like it's the same way that I'll like approach a battle like Soul or something like that. Just, that they write at such a high level that I have to bring something different than I've done before. And that's what I tried to do in that one for sure.
Yeah. No, you do have those sort of rapping attack lines. I love the protagonist, totagonist, Cro-Magnon.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Jesus, like crazy shit. Like, when you're putting together these sort of streams, like, is it very much just kind of a freestyle process that gets cultivated into rounds, or?
Sometimes, but a lot of it is just going over every line over and over again. Usually, like, by the time I finish writing an actual round, I have the entire round committed to memory because of the amount of times I'm going over every single bar just to make sure every word fits right. Not even just every word. A lot of battlers, I don't think, do this enough, but planning every breath within a round, because you should be doing that. Every battler should be doing that, because you need to be breathing on the same places when you execute your rounds as when you've written them. Otherwise, it could dramatically change how the entire thing is presented. If you change one breath, all of a sudden you're breathing in different places for every line, and the line will either come out more choppy, more rushed. It won't have the same fluidity to it. So I'm so meticulous about my wording that usually I could sit and I could work on a given sentence for 20 minutes to get it to the point of where I seem right. But then there will be other times where things just like 4 or 8 bars could just naturally fall perfectly into place for me in a minute for like a different sort of like train of thought, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And in the second, you talk of him being involved in Grind Time's most hated tourney.
Yeah. Oh, he was in a tournament that Mortal Technique threw.
Right.
That they still haven't announced a winner for. And yeah, it was just, he definitely made the finals, him and A-Class. So we still need to figure out who's going to go on tour with a Mortal Tech.
Oh my god, the Korean.
And then the third round had fucking the map quest at his crib and the pile of ash next to a bridge. Yeah. Even I had flips in the third round too. I had the Transformer hand warmer shit.
Yes, that was heavy. I love it in the second. Should have picked me or Ripley, believe it or not.
Oh, for sure. I love that.
Yeah, crazy. Like, I mean, name flips, they're bread and butter, aren't they?
Yeah, no, it's just I'm always trying to do I'm always trying to think of ways that no one else has done before. And even in the TOPR battle, because Top has heard it all before. So I was just trying to think of what can be said that hasn't yet. It's fucking hard to do, but I mean, it's doable.
My album moved 25,000 units, didn't have to burn down my house to do it.
That's fucked up.
So I mean, like, it's been referenced a lot, but it seemed like you were one of the first battlers to actually go at this.
Yeah, well, Dirtbag Dan was the first to go at it. Same event that I battled Mac Lethal. Dirtbag Dan went nuts on that angle. Shit. He fucking killed it. Oh my god.
Right. Okay, so but still early days. So
yeah, then it was me after. I think Ness probably even had a couple of battles after that, and I feel like people stayed away from it because they were just like, oh no, I'm not going to touch that subject again, Right. And then I was like, nah, fuck that. I got some good ones.
And, you've been involved in a hell of a lot of classic events, from Scribble Jam to WRC to Battle of the Bays, etc. Don't Flop 4th Birthday is another one in the calendar a lot of people regard. Great that you can finally come out and come to this event.
What an event, too. Holy shit. I mean, Shoddy Arsenal?
Yeah.
That entire event was fucking crazy. Every battle was crazy.
Yeah, that was fucking. You're right. It was just a real shirt from all of them. Like, so you'd had some trouble getting over, but how did you manage to get over unscathed this time?
I honestly have no idea. I went through. I told them I didn't have anything to do with rapping while I was there or anything like that. I was just there to allow. I think this particular trip, I might have said I was there for like London Film Festival or something like that.
Right. Okay.
And I'm pretty sure I had like a classmate that I went to junior college with who was out in the UK at the time. So I had like customs get a hold of them and basically confirm that that's what I was out there. Like I had told my boy beforehand, I was like, yo, I'm going to be out there. But if you get a random phone call, if I get stopped, like just let them know that I'm like attending the festival with you type of deal,
Sure.
And it worked. It's strange how hit or miss my success is with getting through.
Yeah, a shame, but nonetheless, you got through here. Battling Matter at the time was, he's a big name now, but a big name then as well, beloved. Were you aware of this guy much, or?
I was, for sure. I liked him, like, style-wise. I like, gave me a list of people to choose from, and I chose to battle Matter because I just liked the way that he patterned things. I thought he was kind of slept on at the time, and give him a little more light to shine on his own. Obviously, everybody knew Lunar and Matter, but everybody cared about Lunar. And this was a chance for him to like have an individual standout battle, basically.
Yeah, it was. I mean, great showing from you. Like, I remember at the end when you're given the victory, you kind of dispute that.
Yeah, because I choked. I forgot like my third round because I flipped something to start the third, and then I just forgot my entire round, and then I remembered it after like poorly freestyling through it, which was cool that they like let me spit it or whatever. Yeah. But I mean, I never have like too much pride to like be able to not admit when or I never have too much pride to be able to prevent myself from admitting a loss. I will always, if I feel like I lost, I'm okay with saying that. And I'm okay with telling people that it's not as big of a deal as some people might think it is.
Right.
If anything, it's going to be a good thing for me and a motivational factor moving forward. Every loss that I've ever taken in battling, I immediately follow with a win. That's just how like things have always been for me. So especially at that time, it was more like, damn, I don't feel like I won this, but now I just feel bad for whoever I get to battle next because I have to take that out on them. So that's pretty much.
Yeah, so you feel you beat DNA then?
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. That was a good battle though. Do you remember his sort of, you would have been at Harvard sort of scheme?
Yeah, that was, and I'm like, that means I win.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
like, I win there. Also, I remember I won the coin toss and decided to go first because I knew I had like the Peter name flips.
Yeah.
And I wanted to say them before he did because I knew he was going to do it, which he then did. Like, as soon as I say my first one, you see him look over at Charlie Clips in the crowd and like shake his head like, like he's got me. Like there's 8 of my bars. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I said them all. Pita Bread, Pete Rose, fucking. I was ready for that. And yeah, the dad angle thing, like it was an interesting angle that he took, but I definitely don't see how that it gives him an edge in any aspect at all.
No. And like, yet again, so you sort of disagree with his angle there, sort of thing, to a comedic effect. You say, like, that's what I thought I won. And again, we see this when you return to Don't Flop against 100 Bullets, when you don't understand any of his grime scheme.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it makes sense that I'm not. It makes sense that 100 Bullets would do that.
Yeah.
And also, I think it's perfectly understandable that I wouldn't understand it. I mean, I'm obviously not, a grime encyclopedia.
Right.
It's like, if the thing is, I feel like him using a line like that is like, use that against a Don't Flopper or against someone who it makes more, like, use that against dialect. And holy shit, you'll blow the roof off of the place. You know what I'm saying? But against me, like, yeah, it's a cool angle to use and to play, especially for the UK crowd. It's the only crowd he's going to get away with being able to do it. There's better opponents that he could use it on, though. Like, no question. Because obviously it doesn't have any effect on me. It's the same thing as when he used, like, all the football lines. Like, it's just, I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah, but it's kind of the rawest example of culture clashes in battling. Like, there are certain handicaps you can have, say, if you don't like wrestling or you don't know who Steph Curry is or whatever. You know what I mean? You sort of have to just learn a few things really to
like,
get into
I
that.
wouldn't, like, hypothetically, if a UK battler came to Cali to battle me or something like that, I wouldn't then have a round of all, like, American football references against them. You know what I mean?
No, yeah.
It's just it was a weird angle choice given who his opponent was, but given the setting, it's obviously the right angle choice. That's he chose to battle for to like win for the crowd as opposed to directly beating me.
And you were so deep into this sort of solo rhythm run now. You were battling so many people. You battled Bullets. Then we had Dead Man, followed by John, followed by Sharon. Like, what a streak you seem to be on.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Right.
And even since then, the names, it just keeps
Oh
on
my
getting
God.
more insane. It's ridiculous. The John battle is super slept on. That's a really good battle overall.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, I love the way that was filmed. That whole event, Battle
Oh,
of the
me
Basics.
too. Fuck yeah, that was the last. Like real Battle of the Bay. Because I don't consider the one where Mr. Fab and Arsenal battled that's not a real Battle of the Bay.
Is that? Yeah, no, definitely not. No, that was slightly extravagant there. But yeah, no, that was a good one, definitely. You versus Sharon, was this kind of a master creator situation, or?
I mean, in my opinion, yeah, they they tried for a while to make it happen, and I was just like, yeah, sure, why not? I'll definitely do it, especially because I feel like, I mean, it wasn't as accurate as it is now. Especially now because he doesn't battle anybody but this like one type of battler. But guys like myself, I present the most problems for Sharon in a battle because I'm not someone who he can use his nerdy white guy shock factor against or out white, or you know what I'm saying. There just isn't that element that he has saying the things he said to Shotgun Suge. There isn't that element of impact of those lines against me.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? And he struggles to do well against guys like myself. And that's why he's stuck in my opinion, he's like stuck in the lane that he's chosen because it garners him a ton of reaction. He doesn't have to change much. I mean, his last 9 battles are the same one battle 9 times.
Right.
And it's he has a set formula that is pretty much like fail safe given those matchups that he's taken. That's what, like, he even asked recently. He's like, out of the, like, who should I battle next? And he said, like, he suggested Roan. I want to say he said Roan, Hollow, and Iron Solomon. And I was like, you should battle Roan because you need to do something different for once. For sure. And we kind of like got into a small like argument about it, and he was basically saying like, I don't see what's so different about battling like Iron Solomon or Diz instead of battling someone like Roan. And I was like, well, if you don't see what the difference is, then I'm just not ever going to be able to explain it to you, Corey, because the differences are vast, and I wish you did get that. But I feel like he wouldn't take a match like that because it's too much of a risk. Roan is there's certain types of battlers who can easily and effectively dissect a guy like Sharon. I'm one of them. Roan's one of them. A guy like Ill, who would never take that battle, but he would be one of them. Even, honestly, Iron Solomon, to a degree, I think could do it. I just would be surprised if Iron was interested in that battle. And I think Disaster can dissect him in a different way. Disaster will dissect him in a way similar to what Pat did, like where he's being bullied a bit, but he's also being outclassed at the exact same time that he's being bullied.
Sure.
And I feel like, okay, so maybe Pat then is the last match like that Sharon has taken. And I think he realized it from that. Like those type of matches just don't work out well for him, you know?
And you mentioned the John event, Battle of the Basics, just now. Another classic that went down there was Bigg K versus Illmac.
Oh my God, that's a timeless battle. That battle, it still ages so perfectly. It's just vintage Bigg K, every line just punching your head off, and then Ill with just such a good mixture of punching of his like standard Illmac layered insanity, you know what I'm saying? And of course the third round just it's weird how polarizing that round is. Like people have such mixed feelings on it. It's really like a love or hate kind of thing. There's some people who strongly dislike it, which I don't understand, and then there's obviously the people who think that it was, you know, an incredible like classic round, which I mean conceptually it definitely is. It's fucking it maybe like in hindsight, Bigg K is not the best person to have a round like that against, because it's hard to beat someone like that when you're using like a long conceptual buildup. But it still worked in this battle somehow. It actually worked really well. I was like surprised because when he told me the angle, I was like, "Fuck, that angle is incredible." I just hope it's effective given that you're against a guy who's just going to punch your face off every line, you know?
Sure.
It's but it worked. I love that battle. It's one of my favorite battles of all time. No question.
Yeah. And Bigg K, you know, obviously after this, everyone's like, what's he going to do next? And he battled yourself, which is a great person to take on considering the momentum.
Oh, for sure. And it seems like that happens a lot. It's like someone battles one of us and then they shortly after battle the other. It seems like that's why I even had like the Immaculate Sold Separately line against Bigg.
Right, yeah.
And he knew it was coming too. He like said sold separately before I even said it. But I'm happy that I got to battle K just because like as a battle fan, to me, when he wants to be, I feel like he's probably the best right now. Like his performance against JC just recently, he made beating JC look so surprisingly easy, which I didn't really think was possible, but he did it. Man, when he wants to be, he can beat anyone.
Wow, Jesus, yeah, and this is a great event as well. Chiller Daylight went down here.
Yeah, that's another amazing battle.
Yeah, seriously good battle. Like, kind of got a griminess. I love the way this whole event is shot again. Kind of, you know, King of the Gut, we're going for a real purple patch here. And do you remember the whole, in your first sort of $1,000 bonus every time you use some corny gunplay?
Yeah, the 401k.
Crazy.
Yeah, that shit was nuts. People overlooked my first round a bit.
Yeah.
My second is really solid too, though. I had the Sandlot bar in the second. That shit was tight.
Only Kevin Spacey believes in K-Packs.
Yeah.
That was a really good one as well. But yeah, and you Bigg K speaks about the B Magic and Fox fight. Gets a huge reaction.
Oh yeah, because that happened like the day before. I think I'm pretty sure it wasn't even a fight really. It was them fucking wrestling on the ground. It was Fox like wrestled B Magic to the ground and had him in a headlock and shit.
Right.
And fucking Magic was just like, get him off me. Bigg K actually in Bigg K versus B Magic, which happened at that Arizona event that Teddy Grizzle threw. Bigg K talks about it for like a whole round against B Magic.
Right. Okay. Yeah, and in your second as well, you do the Immaculate Soul separately. Name on a list. This is business to me. Fist will give your neck a bigger twist than David Fincher's movies.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep,
crazy. Stampede him. Have to use a hand to feed him or something like that. Just some crazy shit here.
So his fan has to hand feed him. Yeah.
Fan has to hand feed him. Yeah. Fat kid on the whole sort of baseball stuff as well. Just really good stuff here. Like I think someone like K can be quite intimidating. Really, he's quite ruthless. But
his delivery is so powerful. I even said it in like post battle interviews. You feel the impact of his lines when you're standing like in the ring with him. His delivery is so strong, and what I like about K is that like none of the lines that he says are really simple, but he has a way of breaking down like a very complex line or idea into a simpler form, just to not like overcram. He doesn't overcram or force unnecessary words into his line. He basically says like the perfect amount of words you need to get to each point that he's making. It's fucking crazy. Like so many people are like, man, he just says like simple punchlines. It's like, no, he really doesn't. He thinks very far outside the box. He just delivers and executes it so well. He knows his own style so well that he presents it perfectly.
And it's it's a common thing spoken about you when you battle is kind of you play poker and it's kind of got the gambling element there and stuff like that. And it's interesting. I'm sure we'll get onto that. But like you battled someone called Assassinato for Bluff. Was this sort of poker affiliated?
It was a poker themed battle. Bluff magazine was like one of the top publications in poker. Assassinato is he's a long-time poker pro, super sick internet pro. The guy has multi-millions in career winnings online.
Wow.
At least another million plus in winnings in live tournaments and whatnot. Career, like lifelong pro, one of the top tournament poker coaches in the world, maybe the best tournament poker coach in the world as well. But a longtime battle fan. And he hit me up. He had been following me for a while and we had always just talked poker lightly. But then he hit me up and he asked me, he's like, yo, like, Bluff is interested in filming us doing like a poker themed battle during the World Series of Poker main event, like what would it take to make that happen, basically. And I was just like, yo, man, if it's like poker themed and Bluff Magazine is filming it, I think we can just make it happen. You don't have to worry about anything. Like maybe just give me some coaching pointers or something like that. Something more valuable to me. Like, because I mean, if the guy could be charging $400 to $500 an hour to coach tournament players if he wanted to. I mean, he charges a very reasonable rate because he's just a good dude with a good heart. But yeah, he the information that he's giving in these coaching sessions too is more valuable to me than any like individual lump sum I could be paid for one battle anyways. So I was basically like, yeah, man, just like, you know, if I ask to discuss some hands with you or something, like, let's just do that. And then, you know, negotiated it with Bluff Magazine and with the World Series of Poker that we would film it like in the main room while they're on dinner break. We got Bruce Buffer to host it because he is an avid poker player as well. So he was already playing the World Series main event. And we basically just asked him like on break, like, hey, can we, you know, for 1 minute, can you just like help introduce us? And he did it, he did it for free, which is absolutely insane. And then the illest part afterwards, I even said, I'm like, yo, I was like, thank you for introducing us. It was honestly like bucket list worthy material to have a Bruce Buffer introduction. And he shakes my hand and he's like, no problem, bud. He's like, best of luck in the tournament. He's like, sometimes I have to give good people the 5-figure freebie just to let us know how much of a boss he is. He's like, yeah, I usually charge 5 figures to say those sentences, but you guys seem like good guys. And I was just like, all right, man, you have a good one.
That's crazy, man.
Amazing.
Yeah,
like legitimately a $25,000 freebie that he gave us, basically.
Yeah, that is insane.
That's fucking insane to me.
Yeah, that's great, and I love these little battles where they're from like minor leagues, but they're on their verse tracker. You got to sort of ask and see what they are about. But
oh, for sure. I feel like a lot of people. It's funny. A lot of people talk about like, yeah, I have obviously more content on verse tracker than anybody, which obviously is going to affect my like overall average views. The funny thing is, I feel like I wouldn't even like that battle has 25K or something along those lines. It has at least like an okay reasonable amount. If they were to remove like the bottom, the least viewed 50 battles on my verse tracker, like the little obscure freestyle battles and shit like that with, you know, 1, 2, 3K views or something like that. My average view count would absolutely skyrocket, and it would barely even affect overall view count because I feel like my bottom 50 battles are like small freestyle battles that probably average 5K or less, something along those lines. So it would be deducting like 250,000 overall from my view count, and then, you know, you're subtracting 50 plus battles from what you would have to average that into. I definitely feel like my like the numbers would work a little more in my favor if they didn't include every single thing I'd ever done.
Yeah.
I'm not mad at it though. I think Verse Tracker is fucking amazing. Like it's a great tool, especially if you just like anybody, you can just go look through their entire history. It's so dope for that element. I just know that I don't. It's usually like whatever people who hate on me or whatever the case may be when they talk about average view count. And I mean, it's pretty much just simple math. Like, yeah, just okay. If I don't have a high enough average view count, remove my lowest viewed 50 battles and then average that final number into 50 fewer of whatever my total is, 100 and something, whatever the total would be. And, you know, the average count would probably jump 50,000 views per battle or something like that, 100,000 per battle.
Yeah, well,
kind of.
Yeah, it's still impressive though. You're 18.
Oh yeah, it's not even like I'm not mad at it whatsoever. I just think it's funny when, you know, whatever online battle extremists. I don't even like to call them fans. Online extremists when those are the cases that they make for why I'm not at a particular level, like in comparison to someone else or something.
Sure,
you know?
Sure, I see. Yeah, but I mean, just for posterity, you've got 18 million views at least on Verse Tracker.
Yeah.
145 battles, 124,000 views on average. So it's still really good.
It's not bad at all. Exactly.
No,
it's still well over 100K.
You know, really
that
good.
number would easily crack 200K though if they just deducted like the bottom 50.
I'm sure. And we get to the next battle proper. Brilliant battle, this one on your side. One of the most beautiful battles ever as well in terms of backdrop. Bender versus SAURUS.
Oh, I knew you were going to say that as soon as you said the backdrop. Oh my God. I mean, that's like one case. I wish there would have been a few more people, but just the setting as a battler, like there are so few things that I like haven't done or don't get to do like in a battle, that being able to do just slightly different things like that makes it so much more fun to me, because it's a standout thing. It's not just the usual protocol of show up at venue X, get on stage or in pit inside of venue X in front of, this allotted group of fans, and then leave venue X. It's very much like the same process at most events. This was something so different where it's like, not like it's home, first of all, like this, it's the coast I grew up on, very close to like the original town that I grew up in. Yep. So there's like a real sense of home when I was just in that outdoor environment. And then, I mean, watching it in the background of the battle itself, it really is. It's fucking beautiful. Like it's an amazing backdrop that it can't be matched. Like whether or not there was a large crowd there to see it, I don't really care. There were like the people who were there are all people who like appreciated what was going on and what they were seeing. It was, it was all either fellow battlers or like hardcore fans, right, and like writers I respect and friends of mine. So I'm all good with that. And I have a huge amount of respect for Bender too. So yeah. I wish that we could have made it happen in the venue for the sake of that crowd who showed up there deserved to have a battle of our caliber, put on for them, since they kind of got fucking shafted by watching Arsenal and Mr. Fab for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
But I'm okay with like swapping that out for, having the amazing backdrop the next day, a much more like quiet, intimate setting, but still obviously making the battle happen.
Yeah, fantastic battle. A great shame, really, that despite having some good material, Bender just kind of, stutters. Yeah,
it's fucked too, because the night before he had him perfectly locked in. Organic even told me, because Organic drove him down to the spot like by the beach to where we were going to battle, and Bender was running his rounds in the car, ran them seamlessly like 4 times in the car on the way down to the spot, and then it was just something that happened in the moment. Exact same thing that happened to me and Matter. Like Caustic and I and Madness, we all ran our bars together like day of 3 times in a row. Like we would alternate rounds. Someone would spit their first, Madness would spit his first, Caustic would spit his first, I'd spit my first, then everybody would do their second. We did it 3 times. I got through my rounds seamlessly all 3 times, and then I get on stage and I forget my third. And you even see Caustic standing behind me in the Matter battle, and I'm like looking down at him like, bro, and he's just like, yo, what the fuck? Like, you just did this perfect for like 10 minutes ago, And that shit, it's crazy how just any given thing in the moment can somehow, like, I don't know, cause like a complete like memory wipe temporarily. It really is crazy. Because Bender remembered his shit right after it was over, and he like spat it on camera for like the live stream, because they were doing a live stream of it. So he like spat the bars that he couldn't get out, and they were obviously fucking absolutely ridiculous. He made like a reference to Ilmac, the Ilmac 2009, and you still haven't been on an album of mine. Right. But it was something like, it's like, but now it's 2016 and now it's 2015 and he still hasn't hit you up for any 16s. Right. That was fucking dope.
Oh man, yeah.
I wish that he could have gotten all 3 rounds out perfectly, because then it would have just been a straight, like, just 6-round bar fest. Yep. Call it either way you want. Neither of us care,
Throwing missiles, homie, I don't miss. Eyes closed, you can show me where the blindfold is. I'll test Big Ben's hands without a time zone switch and start flashing off top like a 5-0's whip. You think a cyclone hit? Don't cry though, bitch, because that's a high tone pitch, no strike zone fits. Every shot that I throw splits your microchips if Ben getting out of pocket like the iPhone 6. This kid's got a drinking problem. He ain't got a bright future. At the bar last night till last call, a blind loser. He said, "You want a wine cooler?" "No, I'm not a high schooler." 3 shots later, he's walking like Walter White Jr.
Definitely a bar fest on your side. The first is exceptional, really. A funny start. I got a line that's about to send you to the outer limits, but first I've got to wait 1,000 minutes for Mr. Fab's first round to finish.
Oh, yeah. I thought of that the morning. I was like, I have to say something about it. Like, there's no way I can't, you know? I had to mention what we were put through the night before, basically. Because they asked us that Fab and Arsenal came up to like me and Bender, or Mr. Fab did, and he was like, "Is it okay with you guys if we go on before you and then y'all just go on last?" And I even said at the time, I was like, "Well, like I'm not really stoked on it, but I mean, it's your shit, so you tell us." Because it was basically Mr. Fab's thing, so we were just kind of like at his mercy. And and obviously he asked us if we were okay with that because he knew they were going to close the venue as soon as their shit ended.
Yeah. Every shot I throw splits your microchips if Ben getting out of pocket like the iPhone 6.
Yo, that got slept on because people don't remember how the iPhone 6 was bending in people's pockets.
Yeah. No, it was nice. This shot won the West like the Winchester.
Yo,
nice.
You can hear D-Lore reacting in the background to that one. Specifically that line. D-Lore is like standing next to Avocado on the camera side. He didn't want to be on camera for it because he's like fucking graduated law school now and is moving forward with himself. Shout out to D-Lore, one of my old school favorite writers. But yo, you can hear his reaction for that line loud and clear. It's like it's a straight up Bagnall fucking.
Right. Yeah.
It's like a full-on Bagnall.
You're going to die, I bet. If you challenge me, you'll be way off. Nah, I said you're diabetic. I challenge you to a way off.
Let's go.
Oh, man. Yeah, really, like, great stuff from you here. It seems like you're quite inspired by
That's it. It was a similar thing, a similar feel preparing as the Nestle battle for sure. Yeah. It's like, oh, sick! I get to prepare for a rapper's rapper now. Like, I love that shit. Just being able to stack line after line after line. And Bender is someone who I thought, like, ever since I first heard Bender, ever since Pesci first showed me Bender 5 or 6 years ago, I was just like he was someone whose style I was partial to. I heavily fucked with him from the beginning, and someone who I was always like, yeah, me and him are going to battle one day, and it's going to be fucking crazy. Yeah. Like, I knew it. I honestly thought, I thought when I battled Arcane defending the KOTD chain, I was pretty sure that if I had because Arcane ended up battling Bender next, I was like looking forward to that. Had I won, I thought it was going to be me and Bender, and I was like really hyped on the idea of that. I remember even back then.
Definitely, and it is just a fantastic battle, really. You know, a real artifact of your kind of quality coming through here. Like, you know, great one to watch. I think Bender has a good second as well. B since Keith Richards had a clean liver.
Yo,
you know, that was pretty nice. You'd like to get them sucking when they're young, Philip Morris.
That's fire.
Yeah,
super fire.
That's crazy. And yeah, he does sort of choke a little badly here. He kind of, you know, he recovers with some nice lines, light material, photons, which is pretty nice. Somebody kind of chokes out of the round. But you have some fantastic personals in your second. I love this section where you're like, fat, middle-aged, depressed artist, can barely fit the jeans you're rocking, bottle feeding the addiction of your inner demons talking, about to set a record player, but it's a different needle dropping. You have a million things in common with Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Ugh.
Shit.
And then I'm like, hopefully,
yeah,
because he died.
Oh man! But just the whole crazy.
Go into the next bar, and then I stop. I'm like, because he died.
Yeah.
Yo, then the needle dropping got slept on too.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Think he won a round? It doesn't count. Like Norb's opinion.
I had to. Got to throw shots at Norbs. Me and Norb are cool though. Like, people think that we like adamantly hate each other, but we actually just are really good at trolling each other.
Yeah. Air maneuver, keep this cat on his feet like a pair of pumas. Barracuda tearing through you. Harry Truman airing nukes.
Yeah.
Crazy shit.
Yeah, whip off cam like Ferris Bueller.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah, really, really good. It's similar in your third to TOPR. You sort of say this is how a closing round's supposed to sound.
Oh yeah. I started doing that. I started doing that. It wasn't there. It was against John, maybe.
Right.
I think it might have been against John that was the first person I ever did that against, and then I think I've done it in like 4 or 5 battles since then, something like that.
And altogether, incredible battle from you yet again. Did you feel you were getting this almost second win? Because for my money, really, around this time until now, I'm seeing like a whole new SAURUS just in sort of like,
Yeah, I definitely was. Yeah, it was. I guess I was starting to feel like re-inspired. We had some cats coming up in the scene. That was like when Madflex was starting to get discovered, and just some of the up and comers that kept me like more motivated and like, oh, okay, this is what we're evolving towards now. Well, then I've got to stay ahead of that curve too, because I'm not trying to fall behind it. I'm always trying to evolve with the times while staying myself as much as I can. Really, that's been the hard part, but I don't know. Somehow I just I'm able to adapt.
And it's like, you take a lot of battles, but all the battles you take kind of make sense and kind of like, want to see.
They do. A lot of them are on some like, why hasn't this happened yet? And then even the ones that aren't on that note, people are just like, well, how did I not think of that? Of course, that makes perfect. I have 2 battles coming up that haven't been announced yet. Both of them, people are going to say, why didn't I think of that? And why hasn't this been announced yet? Both of them. And the same thing with the reverse live battle. Like, how has that not happened yet? And how was this the first time that either of us were offered that? Was at Battle of the Zay by Dan,
Right, yeah, of course.
Crazy.
And soon around this time, I mean, we've got to sort of, pick our battles, so to speak, because there's obviously so much to get into, really. We could spend all day, but saw an affiliation of yourself with the bunker.
Absolutely. I mean, most of that is, it's the Cali scene, which is always home to me. Even I live in Vegas, but the West scene is always home to me, and so is California. And then I'm a huge proponent of supporting anything that Avocado is involved in. No question. Just the guy has put his heart and soul into battling so thanklessly for so long, and anything that he's trying to push moving forward, I will always get behind. And him working with J-Pro too, super good dude. J-Pro is a really good dude, so level-headed, and just like both of them, the heart's in the right place. They're not, trying to fucking strike gold, and they're not doing any of these things for like the personal gain. Really, they're doing it out of the love of it, straight up. Yeah. And that's what KOTD is doing, and I love that. But when they started for like booking their own shit and whatnot in the West, or taking the West KOTD scene under their own wing, I was all about helping in any way that I can, no question.
Yeah, I mean, your 2016 was an incredible year for you.
Thank you.
Unbelievable.
It's pretty crazy. It's might be the best year overall of battling that I've had, which is fucking insane.
Yeah, it is actually. It shouldn't. That you couldn't. I know you're a big sports fan, but you can't apply that logic to an athlete, can you? Like,
you can't. No, 13 years later, I can't think of an instance where a guy. I can't think of an instance where a player like won a championship as a rookie and then 13 years later still did not, like there's cases where they will do it again, like win again 13 years later, but not as, it's more of as a role player, not as like a driving force, which I feel like I still am. And I think that's the crazy part is like, not only am I still here, I'm still here and I'm still at a high level. I'm still ready to keep it at that high level and to keep it going even higher. Cause that,
Yeah. And 2016 really, if we just look at the names you face, it's a microcosm of sort of the battler you are at this time, So you had someone like Mood Swangs, who is like, an older figure sort of thing, someone who, not an indulgence, but modern people might not be aware of, so it might be a little bit more slept on. But then equally, on the biggest platforms, King of the Dot, you're going toe-to-toe against Daylight, against QP, sophisticated pens.
Averb, Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. The year overall. It's fuck. Chilla Jones
Chilla's
too.
there. You went overseas to dunks.
Like, yeah, definitely. Like I remember like at the start of last year, just being like when we confirmed the daylight battle, it was originally for Blackout, and I remember just being like, this is such a good note to start the year on from like a writing level, because it's someone who's going to push me to go even further with my writing, the same way Ness did, the same way Bender did. That's what like Daylight was going to do for me last year. And it still ended up working out that way. We just battled later than we expected. And it worked out even better because I got to like, change my rounds around and add new material that I didn't have before. The I Am Remember shit. Like I got to add so much new stuff that made it even better of a battle. And same thing with QP. I knew that was going to push me. Fucking Chilla, me and Chilla's battle is like one of the most slept on of the year for sure because it's on a smaller league. But man, he I think probably had the best 3 rounds against me out of anybody that I battled.
Yeah, I think that's crazy. It is like a 40K or something, which is just
exactly.
amazing.
Which is for the channel it's on, it's pretty good. Like it's really good for the channel it's on, but it's surprisingly low given how good the battle is and that it's both of us,
Yeah, that is true. And we push forward now, really getting towards the end, and a battle that I've got to speak about. It's so good I made a video about this battle. I idolize this battle. You versus...
Great video, by the way.
Oh, thank you. You versus TOPR.
Yep.
Which is just, that
was the one.
It's kind of, we said this earlier, way back when, but it has no right to be as good as it is, really.
It's insane. It really is insane. Given... But the fucking the road that he and I have been down for as long as we have, it is insane how good the battle is from both of us. It's fucking crazy. I remember it's like being in the moment as soon as it ended. I like said to him, to Dan, to Lush, I was like, "Yo, like something special just happened here." This was this brought back a feeling that we had been missing for a long time. But at the same, like it brought back a nostalgic feel of like a grind time energy, but the level of the battle itself was like taking a step forward. So it was such an interesting like combination of like you had this nostalgic vibe just in the audience energy, but then the battle was like almost like a feel of like evolving. You know what I'm saying? It was. So you feel like you're in the past, but you're moving towards the future with what's being said. It was fucking crazy.
Yeah. Just outstanding. Just the way TOPR punched was.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. Fucking ridiculous.
Like
he hit me up too. He called me like hella drunk the night the battle's confirmed, and he's like, "Why did you say yes to this? What did I do to get this battle with you?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "Well, what the fuck? Like, what? You could be battling anybody. Why are you battling me?" And I'm like, "Well, it's Battle of the Zay. Yeah. You and I both like mean a lot to where the scene that is now resurrected from over a decade ago. And Dan and I, when Dan hit me up, he said, I want to get you a battle that has like the throwback vibe to it, but that it is still like so good in like that it'll live up to or exceed today's standards, basically." And I was like, yeah, so you basically we're looking for a battle with someone like Franco that's not Franco, basically. You know what I mean? Someone from a similar era or time. We wanted to bring someone back who hadn't battled in a while. And I had initially suggested TOPR, and he's like, yeah, TOPR fucking has some job to where he can't do it. Like, I already hit him up about it. And then that night, we see a Facebook post from TOPR, and it's like, well, just quit my job. Looks like I can start hollering back at all these battle leagues that have been trying to get in touch with me for the last 2 years. And Dan just sends me the screenshot, and he's like, I'm excited right now. And I'm like, yo, lock this shit in, bro. The way it all fell into place is just perfect. And it's exactly what we wanted to do. Like, it's the exact idea that we wanted to do that somehow exceeded our expectations like tenfold.
Yeah. And, you know, TOPR, one of the things that makes it so strong is his originality. You know, I'm sure much more than myself, but in the same sort of degree, we've watched lots of battles, you know, we've heard a lot of lines. And, like, does it baffle you? Do you care about it? Do you think about it? Just, like, it's just mad, isn't it? There's so many battlers out there doing so many rounds, but you can still hear original wordplay every time.
3 full rounds too of like original shit. He didn't say anything that I was like, oh, I've heard that before.
No,
it's all. I mean, and I'm sure like while he took like some time off from the scene, I'm sure he kept up a bit, but no, I mean, he didn't keep up with everything. There's no way he fucking could. The guy's a father, business owner, like living his life. You know what I'm saying? There's no way he could have kept up with everything going on and like been aware of it to the point of where he's like knowingly didn't reuse anything. TOPR just has one of those fucking sick minds, man. It's I don't know, I see a lot of similarities in he and I for sure, and he's someone who I looked up to before I even existed in any capacity in battling. So like shout out to him for definitely having like that same type of DNA that I do, where it's just we not only do we refuse to die, but we refuse to decline with the times too.
Yeah. I mean, do you know on the down low if he's going to come back again or?
I know he's definitely interested in it. It's going to always come down for him to timing. And I'm sure there's probably just like a small handful of battles he's like actually interested in doing.
Sure.
And this was definitely one. Like this one, he knew that he and I battling there in San Jose, it meant something to people in surrounding towns, not to just us. It was like bigger than us type of deal, which was that's so dope to be a part of. That's what I love being a part of.
Yeah, no, definitely. So we'll,
and that's what honestly, that's kind of what me and Reverse Live is going to be when I go there in July to battle him, because he and I are basically we're not from the same exact hometown, but the same area. We're 30 minutes apart from each other. Basically, it's going to mean a lot for like our hometown scenes to see us battling each other. That shit, because it's something they never thought that they would get to see firsthand, especially because, you know, we grew up in like small towns, like suburb towns where we have to, our home league or our home like division was always still a travel for us. And with this, it's not really with Battle of the Zay, you know, it's less than an hour away from my hometown, less than an hour away from his. So it's perfect.
Yeah, such a US thing to say. It's not far away. It's less than an hour away.
Yeah.
So,
I know. Yeah, that is a very US thing to say.
And we'll get to the questions because we've got lots of questions here. Sort of quick fire questions. What is the favorite sort of name flip spat against you? I mean, we just spoke about TOPR and sort of open up for SAURUS like creative writing classes.
Creative writing classes. That was amazing.
Yeah.
Dumbfounded's. I don't want to say fag. Like, quick, give me another word. Give me another word for fag. Wait, someone grab a thesaurus or something like that.
Right, okay.
That shit was really fucking good. But TOPR, the creative writing classes is so good.
Yeah.
He issued me a challenge to start throwing down with our fists. But when his face is a fucking mountain like this, how could I miss? Let's go. Let's go. I can't believe after all these years, that's what you really rhymed like. That was a piss poor 32. You're a Miller High Life.
Crazy.
So fucking good.
Yeah, really just sort of, I mean,
and how hasn't it been said yet?
Yeah, how?
That's what blew my mind. Like, y'all, everybody, of the 150 people that I've battled in the last 15 years, he beat you all to that line. Yeah. That's crazy.
And the line is about creative writing.
Yeah. Exactly. So I love that. I love that.
Yeah. It's just fantastic stuff. Favorite opponents?
Wow. The Ilmac battle was Il was one of my favorite opponents just because he's probably like my favorite writer / battler of all time. So that was one that I just enjoyed a lot. But the Ness and Bender battles are ones that, for what I touched on when we talked about when I battled them, like on the timeline, just because of like the respect that I have for their writing and their rap ability and all of the intricacies and different approaches that they are capable of. I would say that those were probably like two of my favorite that I am consciously aware of preparing for, just because I knew they were going to push me to a new level. And also writing for Daylight, because I knew I kind of got to like make fun of some of the stuff he did while at the same time being able to appreciate like the good shit that he does and surfacing that as well, you know.
What are your thoughts on the current state of 2-on-2s?
I mean, they seem to, I know we have Double Impact 2 event coming up soon. I was going to say they've kind of fizzled for a bit, at least until this announcement was made. I enjoyed seeing them come back for sure. I thought people were gassing certain teams that had only come back to do one battle to like a very unnecessary extent, saying like, you know, certain people who only have one battle as a team are all of a sudden the greatest team that's ever existed and this and that. And like on paper, you can make a case for certain people. I thought Verb and Hitman were an incredible team who have only done one battle together. And I could see them like, if that was an avenue they chose to go down, which I can't even imagine that being the case because 2-on-2s just don't happen consistently enough. But they could be capable of being like one of the hardest teams ever to beat, no question. I felt like too much credit was given to guys like DNA and Shine for sure. Right. I get why people think that they brought 2-on-2s back, air quote, or made them hot again, air quote, because they did definitely help bring them back to being like a relevant thing, like by consciously booking them, you know what I'm saying? But I wouldn't like hold them in a higher regard than a team like Shuffalo or anything like that.
No.
There's no planet where they're better than those two. Those guys are just they're in a Shuffalo. They're in a league of their own. They're absolutely unreal. They are doing now to a higher level and higher degree what I was talking about with me and Ill just sharing one super brain. Yeah. That is what they are doing, but to such a higher and more intricate degree. First of all, they see everything differently than a battle rapper does. Like they see it from a comedic and presentational approach. Yeah. Outside of just the battle approach. And then there's such good, thorough, intricate writers where every word has a purpose. Every sentence is there for a reason. There's no filler really. I mean, if anything contributed to reviving 2-on-2s to me personally, it was when they started actively 2-on-2ing. There's no question in my mind.
Yeah. I think that's fair, and it's great to hear that you have such a high opinion of them, because obviously you and Ilmac were the 2-on-2 guys for so long, and then
eventually we hope that it can happen somewhere. I mean, I would assume it feels like the only places that it makes sense are in the UK or maybe in Cali.
Sure,
probably the UK, because Il and I have never battled a 2-on-2 in front of a UK crowd.
Yeah.
And just given the overall history, I think that probably has like the most impact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I guess you could sort of say the same about the Cali crowd, because even Jump Off 07 was just like in a back alley. There was no audience. So no Cali crowd has really seen us do a 2-on-2 either. But I just know the historical significance of having it in the UK, I think, is big.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And another question, who might you be aware of that we're not, that you'd recommend to watch battle?
Wow. It depends on who asked this and where they're from. But, if the person asking this is probably already aware of Dank Schrader.
Right, yeah, of course, Dank, yeah.
Dank is one of my favorite. I think he's moved past the up and coming class as well. I feel like he's just like a staple now that is working his way towards being like a top tier consistent battler. Dank is so sick. Yeah. Calcium Kid is always a dude too, and I still, to maybe not to UK fans, but to US heads, he is very under the radar, and he's absolutely fucking amazing. Geechee Gotti is definitely, Geechee and Saint actually are both really dope, on the come up, and you're hearing a lot more about them ever since they battled each other, and they're getting more of a push. There's this dude who I just recently saw battle for the first time who was super raw, and I think it was like a URL. It might have been a PG battle. This dude, Iron Sheik, who is super raw, and I watched that based on a Bigg K recommendation. Chef Trez, I guess you could still sort of consider on the come up, even though now he's like on the URL roster, so I guess not so much. Dunch is definitely going to become like a regular staple name that everyone will be familiar with, probably by the end of this year, if not by like Blackout next year. There's no question. He's really fucking good. There's someone from the UK I've been hearing about who I need to check out. I don't know why I can't think of his name. He's a bigger black dude who.
Scoop,
exactly. That is, and that's someone that's a name I've been hearing a ton of.
Oh, he's dope.
I still need to check out. So that'll be like my next person that's on the radar that I need to check out for sure.
Yeah, check out him versus Wilsey.
Okay,
he's one of his better ones. Yeah, and Tox as well. Sure. DNA's coming out. Another question: what about you versus O'Shea? Why hasn't that gone down yet?
Yo, it will. It definitely will someday. Funny story. That was actually supposed to happen 2 years ago in Norway on King of the Ronalds.
Right.
And then it ended up just falling through because Mickey was basically like, yo, I know you have issues getting into England, and we obviously want to avoid any of that. What if we just threw it in like a different European country that you've been in before or have, no issues getting into? And he's like, we're throwing an event in Norway on this date. Like, let's see if it can happen. And then I feel like there was something conflicting. It might have been with O'Shea. I can't remember. There was something, some sort of conflict with the date, and then since then we just haven't heard anything about it. I would obviously prefer doing that with Don't Flop, no question.
Yeah.
There's a couple of battles that I'd probably want to get out of the way before that in Don't Flop. I'd probably want to battle Tony first, or even Soul first, something like that. But I would love to eventually have a true one-on-one battle with O'Shea. We have that 2-on-2 against him and Henry Bowers, me and Ilmac. But that, we don't really get to see vintage O'Shea, especially not for a whole battle. And I need that, I'm stoked that him and Madness are battling, though.
Yes, that'll be great.
That is going to be amazing.
Yeah, that'll be really, really good, definitely. But what about the best... this is maybe a little bit kind of, candid, but the best face joke you've heard?
Wow. Honestly, I don't know. I kind of tune them out. I'm trying to think. Fuck.
It's difficult.
Madness called me Monterey Leota.
Right.
Which I thought was pretty good.
That's
as
funny.
Far as that's more just like a comparison joke, an actual face joke. Yo, he definitely had it. He had the best one that I have though. It's that I've heard still. You look like you let yourself marinate in Naren mace, and the result is that your flesh came out the texture of carrot cake. That's the one. That is definitely the one.
That's good.
Marinate in Naren mace and carrot cake. That's fire.
Yeah. Another question here, slightly different. Do you think the regularity of King of the Dot title matches compared to Don't Flop diminishes the importance, value, and value of the chain?
No, because they're still only twice a year. It's not. Biannually, I think you get probably more fans complaining that maybe it doesn't happen enough, or some. I could see them going for once every 8 months or something. Like there would be some years where 2 title matches could fall, but not on other years or something like that. I don't know. I feel like there's so many. For each battler, there's probably pros and cons that come in line with the chain. Like you have certain people who at all times they just want to choose their own opponents no matter what. So for them, it's not ideal. For guys like maybe Iron Solomon or something, it's probably not ideal. While the chain, you do have a certain amount of say. you also have to take into consideration that it's like a league thing, and they're always going to have their own idea of who their contenders are based on the work that they've put in their league, and that makes perfect sense. It's not a problem. But with guys like even a Bigg K, who people say they always throw his name around for title contention, or a Solomon or someone like that, even past to a degree, I feel like those are three dudes who are also really like selective in their battle choices, so the title for them might not be the most ideal, whereas for someone like myself, I'm a lot more easygoing when it comes to matchups, and I'm at this point, it's a lot for me about what matches am I going to have fun with, what are not super redundant for me, and what'll make sense for me moving forward. And nothing really comes into play for me of where, like, oh, I can't battle for the chain because of this reason, because then I can't battle this person type of thing, I think that's really the biggest pros and cons that come into it, is just whoever has it at the time and their, like, I don't know, willingness and ability to be able to accept everything that comes along with it. That's really it. I feel like two title matches a year, though, isn't overkill by any means. I'm okay with that because it gives the possibility for the title to change hands, not only every year, but it keeps the champion active to enough of a degree to where they're not forgotten about. I don't think you could have someone maintain the champ without battling for like a year and a half or something like that and have that hold any type of weight, because, well, who are they? Are they battling anybody at all, or are they just sitting waiting for a title match,
Yep. And what are your views on King of the Dot versus URL? I mean, go ahead.
The idea sounds interesting from a fan's perspective. There's so many. I just feel like it's such a nightmare to think of the behind the scenes shit, like what footage goes where, who gets to release what at what time, what matchups even happen, who's even a part of that, like which side of which card, and who, people are going to be declared one way or the other. Basically, it's they're either going to be declared a URL battler, even though they've battled on both platforms, or a lot of guys could be declared, I guess, a KOTD battler, even if they've battled on both platforms. It's kind of that can become kind of a nightmare. You definitely have guys you could specifically Shotgun Suge, there's no question about what roster he's on,
Right.
But who's Chilla Jones on? You know what I'm saying? Like, is he definitively a URL roster guy, or is he not? Is Daylight, I guess, is definitively a KOTD, even though he's like his own entity.
Yeah, it is. It just sort of exists.
I feel like there's too many like problematic variables that come into play with it. The overall idea is cool, and if you can definitively get these matchups to take place with guys who are as clear-cut one way and as clear-cut the other, and they can work out something with the footage to where either both channels get to drop it, or something that's mutually beneficial, because one league, we all know if this were to happen that one league is going to ask for more than the other. And I don't need to name which one is going to do what, but we know that that's going to happen, because we know that one league feels a different sense of entitlement and feels that they're the most respected and the only stage that matters. And that's where I think the problem comes in.
Yeah, certainly. And so let's say an event does go down, though, and you're given your choice, really. Who are some URL MCs you'd like to body bag?
Wow. I mean, it'd be fun to beat someone like K-Shine, just to beat someone like that, just because he's got such a little attitude, man. I don't have any issues.
No, but
he's just so damn yappy and whatnot. Yeah. I'd like to beat someone like him. I'd like to. I would battle someone like Mike P over there. I feel like he's a clear-cut URL roster guy. He, contractually obligated to be on that side. Someone like Nitty could work. Hollow, if Hollow was part of the URL. That's another gray area, though.
Yeah,
whether or not Hollow is on that roster. If he is, hell yeah, I would battle him. But I would also prefer to see, like, if that card takes place, I would prefer to see Bigg K Hollow.
Sure. Okay, interesting. And yeah, and what about yourself going for the title? Like, are we going to see you versus Ice soon, or?
I sure as hell hope so. It seems like that's the. I mean, I was in immediate title contention before they confirmed Roan versus Ice, and basically a lot of it came down to and this was even my input as well, was, do you guys have me battle Roan in a rematch, hypothetically, have me battle Roan in a rematch, and then winner battles head Ice, which would be a new battle either way, or do you have the new battle that isn't a rematch already, since Roan already had a rematch for the title with his last title match against Caustic? To avoid that happening again, do you then have him battle the other guy who basically, I mean, whatever. I openly was saying I thought Ice was the next contender for the chain for sure. And a lot of it had to do with what I'm about to say. You have Roan battle the guy who he hasn't battled yet, so he's not doing 2 rematches in a row. And then hypothetically, you have a possible new title match resulting from that if Ice does win the chain. So that was like my input from it when they asked me what my thoughts were about being in contention before Blackout. And I don't feel like anything's changed significantly enough to where I would somehow have been like deterred from that path now, or I feel like I should probably be the next contender. I mean, it makes sense. The 2016 KOTD Battler of the Year, who did 6 or 7 battles on their channel last year, should probably be next up. Yeah. And when you consider before Blackout, when they asked the fans to vote on the poll who should battle Roan next, I beat Ice in the poll, and right. I still said I think what would be best overall for you guys, and I still do. I still feel that way. And even if I was to somehow get shafted out of next title match, whatever, if that happens, it would be annoying. But I mean, it wouldn't change the way I feel about what I told them from the beginning, which was I think it's probably best to have a new match first, because then you're looking at the possibility of not having to deal with a rematch at all.
Yeah.
Whereas if you put me against him, you're giving him back-to-back rematches for title matches. Not that he's incapable or something like that. I mean, whatever. I'm sure Roan preferred writing for Ice than he would prefer writing for me again.
Right. Yeah. No, definitely. So we'll wrap up with a few questions we always ask at the end of the show.
Cool.
The first one being your favorite Don't Flop battle.
Wow. I love Calcium versus O'Shea. That's absolutely incredible to me. Yep. Souls rounds against Raptor are probably maybe my favorite rounds to rewatch. Just when I'm getting hyped and in writing mode and shit. The Bad Bars battle is undeniably one of my favorite things to have ever happened in Don't Flop, no question. And that was my introduction to Shuffle and Marlowe was the Bad Bars battle, and I still go back and watch that and just absolutely fucking die laughing. Being in person for Shoddy versus Arsenal was probably second.
Right, yeah.
As far as anything that I've experienced out there in the UK at an event, there was nothing like that. I've been to a lot of fucking events, and right. At least 160 of them, and there was no other event where the energy was what was in that room for Shoddy Arsenal. That shit was when Arsenal took off his fucking hoodie and had the Arsenal jersey on, the sweater jersey on, it was, and then he fucking takes off his hood and he has the Scully on too. people absolutely lost their shit. I've never been at an event where the energy was like that for a whole battle, too. I mean, that whole event was charged up as fuck. But, that battle itself, like, there was genuine tension while at the same time, like, a real mutual respect for, like, that they have for each other as battlers, But there was obviously still like a genuine tension, obviously, because, the bars that fucking Ars is saying, he's king disrespect. And Shoddy knew it was going to happen, so he fucking combated it perfectly. Yeah, those ones, those are probably all go down as like my favorites collectively.
What about King of the Dot?
Wow. Bender 24/7 was super fire. Ilmac Bender is fucking insane. Wow, a lot of them include Bender, I feel like. Osa 24 is also really fucking good. Eurgh vs. Kid Twist is a fucking amazing battle. Pat Stay's rounds against Hollowhand are like some of my favorite shit ever. And Pat Stay's rounds against Sharon are just absolutely like fucking out of this world type shit. I feel like there's one that I'm missing for some reason. One of my favorites actually that I was on stage for, and I didn't expect it to be one of my favorites, but Daylight vs. Madchild was one of my favorite King of the Dot battles that I was there for. That shit was so live on stage. Yeah. I mean, it was mostly Day's performance. Madchild did well, but Day's performance was just fucking next level in that shit.
Yeah. No, excellent, man. What about Grind Time? Tell me what your favorite Grind Time battles?
Wow, there's so many. Hollow and Pass, obviously. Like, you can't not have Hollow and Pass on your favorite Grind Time battles list. Dumb and Tantrum, for sure. One of my favorites, though, and one of the first Grind Time battles that I ever saw and like, genuinely was like, I love this shit, is Mosh Jelton versus Johnny Storm.
Right.
What a fucking classic Grind Time battle that was. That, like, to me, that's a top 5 all-time GT battle, no question.
That's crazy, man. Yeah,
that shit is so fucking tight. Locksmith against Day, looking back, is actually a lot better than I remember it being at the time. Also, and Fresco Kid Twist.
Right. Yeah.
What dope battle that was.
What about URL?
Wow. I really liked Rumnitty and Av. That's a really fire battle. JC Chilla, for sure, is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Holy shit. B Magic Conceited, especially the first round from both of them, is just fucking god tier.
Aluminum foyer, yeah.
Oh my god, man. And Conceited, when Conceited does the slow it down and then reacts to his own slow it down to 2 different camera angles, it's my favorite reaction to a bar that anyone's had of their own ever of all time.
Right.
That shit is so good. And Big T Sue Surf, no question. Big T Sue Surf is one of my favorite battles, period, ever. That shit is so good.
Love that
so
battle.
Fucking good. Oh, another King of the Dot one, though, that I forgot to say. Bigg K Ill Will.
Right, yeah.
And obviously Bigg K Ilmac. But Bigg K Ill Will was fucking crazy.
Right. So 2 final questions here, non-battle rap related. First of which, your favorite movie?
Wow. Usual Suspects.
Right, nice. Okay, excellent.
Definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
classic. What about your favorite band, artist or band, musical artist? No way hip hop related.
Wow. I mean, the first group that made me pick up the group that made me get a guitar, like buy a guitar and start playing, was Nirvana.
Right.
That I'll always have like a bias for them, no question.
Do you still play or?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I still play. My lady actually plays more than I do. She has like 3 guitars.
Cool. That's cool.
But probably them. I mean, R.I.P. Chris Cornell as well. I feel like
my God, yeah.
Chris Cornell had the best voice of that entire era, like no question. And I feel like I still like fuck with like Audio Slave, probably even more than.
Oh yeah, I love Audio Slave, man. They're a great band.
Audio Slave, and even like since his passing, I've just been like looking up random Chris Cornell covers and shit like that he's done, and yo, that dude, like his voice, it shit gives me chills. It's so fucking good, and I'm like rediscovering my appreciation for that ever since he passed too. Fuck, man.
Good. Yes, all that Soundgarden stuff as well. Like,
they were intense, man. They really fucking were.
Yeah, great.
And I mean, I fuck with like older stuff, super heavy too, like Zeppelin, of course, that's super heavy. And I feel even Queen. Shout out to the greatest vocalist of all time, Freddie Mercury.
Yeah,
I've been lately like because when I'm playing it like in these long tournaments and whatnot, I usually have my headphones in for like long periods of time, and I listen to very little rap when I'm at the table because I'm really just trying to listen to like either feel good music or something with real energy behind it when I'm sitting down and focusing. I don't just want to have like technical ass Royce the 5'9" lyrics in my headphones when I'm trying to like think of situations. I want to have like relaxing, feel good music. So I've been like revisiting so much old school like 70s rock on Spotify the last 3 or 4 months worth of tourneys I've been playing, and just like bringing me back to what made me get into music in the first place. I love it. Excellent, man. Well, that's been some longest episode. Actually, this has been the longest episode. We're at 3 hours and 20 at the moment. That didn't even feel like it. What a that was crazy. Fuck yeah. And there's so much more we could cover, but I'm sure maybe. Yeah, that's the crazy. We could literally talk all night. Oh yeah. I mean, all the poker, all the music, all that sort of crazy stuff, But I'm sure we can talk about this in the future. We've been going a long time now. For sure. Finally, how do people get at you? Your Twitter, your sort of music. Yeah, I just got verified on Twitter actually 2 days ago. And Thesaurus831 is the Twitter. Hopefully it'll just be Thesaurus soon. There's actually a Twitter account called Thesaurus that started 10 years ago and has never tweeted. It's just like an egg. Yeah. And I like constantly tweet at Twitter support, and I'm like, yo man, just give me the name and I'll never ask you guys for anything else. So, but right now it's Thesaurus831, and then anywhere else that you want to find me on social media it'll be whateveritis.com/thesauruswins. Yeah. And that's all. Like Instagram, Thesaurus Wins. My Facebook fan page, Thesaurus Wins. Snapchat, Thesaurus Wins. Anything other than Twitter is always going to be Thesaurus Wins. Yep, that's right. And Thesaurus, honestly, as I said before, genuinely brilliant to have you on. Thank you so much for. And genuinely, I really appreciate being on, and I'm glad that we had such a good, thorough discussion about everything. I feel like most of the interviews that I do, usually they have some sort of time cap and whatnot, so we aren't able to get into 20% of what we covered today, and that's fucking awesome. I love it. Yeah, exactly. I'm a big fan of Joe Rogan, and podcasts in general. Oh yeah, of course. Oh, and, Joe's. He always says the same thing. You have these sort of your Lenos and your Conan O'Briens and stuff, but it's all kind of fake, isn't it? It's just like a 10-minute sort of plug. Whereas here we can just we can plug, but we can also just sort of go deep. You can find out who you are and delve deeper. Oh, I love Joe Rogan. Man. Oh man, it's so good. But Saurus, thanks again, man. This has been great. Thank you for sure. Look forward to watching back.